asked, "How can we provoke a decisive battle between the Tibetan rebel forces and Songzan Ganbu?" The empress fell silent, aware of the military implications. Recognizing Cheng Chumo's desire to benefit from the ensuing chaos was rather challenging. In the midst of their conversation, Cheng Chumo suddenly pulled Empress Chang Sun into his embrace, wrapping his arms around her waist. "No, I am not ready," she stammered, her cheeks tinged with crimson. "I am ready," he declared. The empress felt a surge of joy. Realizing he was finally awakening to their connection, she chose not to respond, fearing that any words might cause him to withdraw. The past 6 months had been exceedingly difficult. Outside the carriage, Princess Chizuan stealthily eavesdropped, her youthful face flushed with embarrassment as she peered through the curtain. She was taken aback to discover that the seemingly dignified and beautiful empress could exhibit such a side, her cries more poignant than those of the palace concubines. After an undetermined duration, Cheng Chumo emerged from the carriage, appearing refreshed, startling Princess Chizuan, who was hiding nearby. "Are you unwell? Why haven't you left?" he asked, his voice tinged with annoyance at being overheard. The princess, caught in the act, faltered, unable to articulate her thoughts. She was not unwilling to depart, but rather hesitant, fearing capture by the rebel forces. "You may attend to your affairs," the empress gently urged. Cheng Chumo cast one last glare at Princess Chizuan before departing. The empress adjusted her attire, her face still flushed, her eyes sparkling with a hint of spring. "May I enter, beautiful and noble sister?" Princess Chizuan asked. The empress's heart swelled with joy at being addressed as sister. After all, Chizuan was merely 16, while the empress fancied herself 18. The princess was correct in her assessment. The empress indeed possessed exquisite beauty, her skin surpassing even that of Chizuan. "Come in," the empress replied, ensuring that the carriage bore no unpleasant odors before granting entry. "Thank you, sister," Chizuan sweetly responded as she eagerly entered the carriage, exploring its beauty and dreaming of owning one herself. The empress watched with a smile. "Sister, you cried out quite loudly just now. Was it truly that pleasurable?" Chizuan queried. The empress was taken aback by her directness, realizing that such candor was characteristic of foreigners who were often straightforward. Noticing the empress's silence, Chizuan leaned closer, inhaling deeply. "You truly smell delightful," she remarked. The empress, somewhat exasperated, found the young girl's curiosity amusing. "I was always like this when I was younger," she chuckled. Chizuan grew even more fascinated, producing a silk handkerchief from her pocket to show off. "Sister, look how beautiful this is," she exclaimed, beaming with pride. The empress nodded, contemplating how to have Cheng Chumo escort her away. Cheng Chumo gathered the Tianyuan army, invigorated by the arrival of special forces, which allowed him to train soldiers effectively. Each special forces member would train 1,000 men, with competition set for half a month later, where the victors would receive a long spear as a prize. The special forces members were indifferent to the weapons, preferring the Tang saber, as their speed and assault rendered firearms less useful. Cheng Chumo frowned, frustrated by their increasing demands. They were becoming overly choosy, rejecting firearms altogether. In truth, Cheng Chumo shared their reluctance. Any weapon required numbers, and a few guns would prove ineffective in large-scale combat. The task of executing a clean kill was not as simple as it appeared, as the armor of the era was not inferior to modern ballistic vests. "The defeated shall wash the undergarments of the victors," Cheng Chumo added, his tone serious. The special forces members understood the gravity of the situation, determined not to fail. Cheng Chumo felt a sense of satisfaction. This was precisely how he intended to handle them. Meanwhile, in the Tibetan royal city, Songzan Ganbu's first order upon returning was to recall the 200,000 troops stationed at the borders. He took out paper and pen to compose a letter to Li Shimin, requesting a marriage alliance with one of his princesses. He also informed Li Shimin of Cheng Chumo's activities in Tibet, omitting any mention of Empress Changsun, as he did not believe she could possibly be there. As Princess Chizuan had remarked, how could the empress venture into such a desolate place? In Chang'an, at the Ganlu Hall, Li Shimin received Songzan Ganbu's letter. At this moment, he lacked the youthful vigor of his earlier days, resembling a weary elder whose favorite pastime was teaching his son. "Look at this," he said, handing the letter to Yuan Tiangang, who examined it carefully. "The Tibetans lack royal authority. Songzan Ganbu's regime will not be overthrown," Yuan Tiangang concluded. Li Shimin furrowed his brow, dissatisfied with this outcome. He sighed internally, pondering why the royal aura of Shu had not manifested in Tibet. "Why is Duke Cheng in Tibet?" Yuan Tiangang queried, perplexed. Li Shimin remained silent, fully aware of Cheng Chumo's motives. He was evading him. Li Shimin could guarantee that upon his demise, Cheng Chumo would certainly return to Chang'an. Brimming with arrogance, an urgent sense of urgency gripped him. Certain plans must be executed swiftly, for Cheng Chumo's existence kept him restless. "You shall write on my behalf," he instructed. Yuan Tiangang complied. Li Shimin resolved to draft a letter to Cheng Chumo, deeming the affairs of Tibet trivial in comparison to the latter. "Hiding is futile. I shall face you in our final battle in Chang'an, where we will determine our fates and lives. Do you dare?" Li Shimin proclaimed. As he spoke, a smile crept across his face, reminiscent of his younger days. He chuckled, inquiring whether Cheng Chumo would dare to fight him. Li Shimin directed his gaze towards Yuan Tiangang. Upon finishing his writing, Yuan Tiangang lifted his head, his heart heavy with the knowledge that a great sovereign was destined to fall. Cheng Chumo is harmless, Yuan Tiangang replied. He would not flatter Li Shimin. Having lived over a century, he had long since grown indifferent to life and death. Li Shimin shook his head, dismissing the notion that anyone could rival him. In this world, he had no equal. Cheng Chumo was his sole adversary. I have fought my entire life. And I wish to perish on the path of rivalry, Li Shimin declared. Yuan Tiangang regarded him with profound respect. Some live their lives in cowardice, unwilling to retaliate. While others, like Li Shimin, embrace the challenge of competition. This, indeed, is the true reason why Li Shimin seeks to eliminate Cheng Chumo. He cannot abide anyone standing on equal footing with him. How does your majesty intend to compete? Yuan Tiangang inquired. Li Shimin gazed out the door, lost in thought. It is said that Cheng Chumo possesses immense talent. I wish to present him with a final challenge. If he succeeds, I shall allow him to live. Li Shimin stated. With that, he rose and lit the lamp. Li Shimin added. And Wu Meinyang hurried in to ignite the oil lamp. Li Shimin smiled at Wu Meinyang. In my final days, it is you and Zizi who accompany me. I am aware of your circumstances. I shall not kill you. After my death, you may choose to become a nun, Li Shimin said. Wu Meinyang lowered her head, biting her lip. Is this the wise sovereign? Truly wise, for nothing escapes his notice. I shall obey, the maidservant replied, realizing that there was no need for concealment. Once Li Shimin had made up his mind, it was unalterable. Li Shimin chuckled lightly, indifferent to such matters. He gazed at the oil lamp. Should Cheng Chumo manage to keep the lamp burning while inverted and cause flowers to bloom on the road, I shall permit him to live. I shall inform Songzan Ganbu that I consent to the marriage of Princess Wencheng to Tubo. If Cheng Chumo does not return to Chang'an, I shall annihilate him. Li Shimin declared. Chapter 164. Chaos in the Imperial Palace. My time is limited. You must journey to Shu. If Li Ku possesses the abilities of an emperor, you shall eliminate him in my stead, Li Shimin instructed. Yuan Tiangang smiled wryly. This was not merely a matter of killing Li Ku, but a directive to end a prince's life, a jest of the gravest kind. He envied Sun Simiao, who lived freely, unencumbered by court politics. Casting a glance at Wu Meinyang, he mused that this might be his chance to survive. I shall obey, Yuan Tiangang affirmed. He bore another identity, that of a notorious leader. Wu Meinyang assisted Li Shimin in taking his seat. She felt sorrow for Prince Li Ku, had he not been the grandson of Yang Guang. The outcome would have been different. Among the princes, Li Ku was undoubtedly exceptional, yet in the eyes of the ministers, he was merely a remnant of the previous dynasty, and Li Shimin would never bestow the throne upon him. Had Li Ku been born of another consort, the result would have been different. Even as the child of a palace maid, he might have had the chance to ascend the throne. He truly possessed the bearing of a great emperor. Yet fate is capricious. The Yang family urged Wu Meinyang to assist Li Ku, but she firmly declined, stating it was impossible to help unless she wished for her own demise. Li Shimin issued an edict summoning Cheng Chumo, who was far away in Tubo, back to the capital. In the harem, Empress Yang wore a troubled expression. She yearned to save her son, yet felt powerless as the ministers began to seek fault, an ominous sign. Turning to a nearby maid, she pleaded, I beseech you for a favor. The maid immediately bowed, overwhelmed by Empress Yang's request. I cannot, the maid replied, her heart racing with trepidation at the uncertainty of what was to come. Empress Yang produced a letter. You must travel to Tubo and deliver this letter to Cheng Chumo. I implore you, Empress Yang said, grasping the maid's hand. At this moment, Cheng Chumo was her only lifeline. He had saved Li Yu. If he were willing to assist, her child would surely survive. Not only Empress Yang, but the entire harem was filled with anxiety, each woman fearful that Li Shimin would demand their lives as well. In the Tubo royal city, Songzan Ganbu looked upon Li Shimin's decree with resignation. At last, Li Shimin had consented to the marriage of Princess Wencheng, his adopted daughter, to him. However, the predicament lay in the fact that Li Shimin demanded he find a way to compel Cheng Chumo to return to Chang'an. Aware of the enmity between Cheng Chumo and Li Shimin, he also understood how formidable Cheng Chumo could be. A gentle approach would fail and leave him vulnerable, while a forceful one would unleash a massacre in Tubo. He could not afford to suffer the same fate as the Western Turks. It was indeed a challenging dilemma. Songzan Ganbu mused. He would rather engage in a genuine battle with the rebel leaders than confront Cheng Chumo. Recalling the last time Cheng Chumo sought something and ended up with a toothache, he realized Cheng Chumo would do anything to obtain what he desired, even if it meant taking over Tubo. The notion of seeking out caterpillar fungus, what a ridiculous pursuit, unfit even for cattle. Cheng Chumo's peculiar interests left Songzan Ganbu, questioning his eccentricities. Summon the ministers for a council, Songzan Ganbu instructed. Shortly thereafter, a group of scholars entered. Songzan Ganbu explained the situation. The ministers began to propose various strategies. One official suggested, Cheng Chumo possesses many slaves and continues to recruit more. Why not offer him slaves? With an increased number of slaves, he will require food to sustain them, and Tubo does not have sufficient provisions. At that point, Cheng Chumo would have no choice but to return to Tang with his slaves. Songzan Ganbu's expression darkened. This minister clearly did not understand Cheng Chumo. Would he truly fret over a lack of food? If he were to face a food shortage, his first thought would be to raid, never to return to Tang for supplies. Cheng Chumo was the sort to disregard the lives of others. The more, the merrier, as it would free up space for the Tang people. This suggestion was untenable. You do not comprehend Ching Chumo at all. Think again, Songzhan Ganbu urged, feeling frustrated at the considerable disparity between himself and the Tang officials. After much deliberation, no viable plan emerged. With a heavy sigh, Songzhan Ganbu found himself in a quandary. Let us provide him with slaves and see how much food he can gather. Songzhan Ganbu concluded, believing that having a plan, however imperfect, was better than having none. He resolved to remain within the royal city, confident that even if Cheng Chumo attempted to raid, he would not reach him. If Cheng Chumo targeted the rebels, all the better. Half a month later, a Tubo envoy arrived at Cheng Chumo's camp, bringing with him 10,000 slaves. Upon meeting Cheng Chumo, the envoy explained their purpose. Esteemed Duke Cheng Chumo, our king wishes to exchange 10,000 slaves for Princess Chizuan, the envoy stated. Cheng Chumo understood Songzhan Ganbu's intentions. The root of slave rebellion lay in the sheer number of slaves. Providing Cheng Chumo with slaves would not be a loss for him. Very well, Cheng Chumo replied. Wait a moment. Princess Chizuan interjected hastily. She did not wish to return at that moment. Turning to the envoy, she said, inform the king that I shall remain for a while longer before returning. He need not worry. Princess Chizuan added, as she was currently learning from Empress Changsun and growing increasingly enamored with Tang culture. Moreover, she had not yet tired of riding in Empress Changsun's carriage during her lessons. The envoy appeared troubled. Cheng Chumo's expression darkened. No, you must return. Cheng Chumo was unwilling to allow Princess Chizuan to linger any longer in this place. The girl stubbornly clung to the carriage, refusing to depart. Princess Chizuan pouted, her countenance filled with discontent. Regardless of her feelings, Cheng Chumo accepted 1,000 slaves and commanded the envoy to forcibly escort her away. As she was being pulled away, Princess Chizuan turned back repeatedly, waving fervently at Empress Changsun. Sister, I will miss you. I promise I will return to see you. You still need to teach me embroidery. Farewell, sister, she cried, her voice tinged with tears. Empress Changsun waved back with a smile. Cheng Chumo approached the carriage, relieved that she was finally leaving. At last, she is gone, Cheng Chumo remarked. Empress Changsun, feeling helpless, noted that Cheng Chumo and Princess Chizuan were at odds and always ended up in conflict when they met. She means no harm. Do not stoop to his level, Empress Changsun advised. How could Cheng Chumo possibly lower himself to the level of a mere girl? It is merely a sense of encountering a kindred spirit, he replied. My lord, a letter has arrived from Chang'an, and there is a woman who wishes to see you. A special operative reported. Bring her in, Cheng Chumo commanded. The operative handed Cheng Chumo a letter before departing to fetch the woman. Upon opening the letter, Cheng Chumo discovered it was written by Li Shimin. He passed the letter to Empress Changsun, whose expression shifted dramatically as she read. Chumo, you must not return. It will be perilous, Empress Changsun warned. She could surmise Li Shimin's intentions. He undoubtedly aimed to eliminate Cheng Chumo, for as long as Cheng Chumo lived. He would not dare to usurp Li Chengqian's position as crown prince. He feared that Cheng Chumo would annihilate his sons. Li Shimin's plan to send Cheng Chumo back was clearly an attempt to resolve everything in one fell swoop. Considering Cheng Chumo's current strength, he stood no chance against Li Shimin. Cheng Chumo nodded. Return now? What a jest. To return at this juncture would be folly. I shall bide my time for a few more years until Li Shimin passes. When I return to Chang'an then, who would dare oppose me? Fear not. The turmoil in Tubo will not subside anytime soon. I intend to seize this opportunity to reap benefits and gather allies, Cheng Chumo declared. He planned to develop an army of 100,000 from the Tianyuan left guard. When the new emperor ascended the throne, he could lead his forces on expeditions, attacking whomever he chose. Chapter 165. The assassination of Cheng Chumo. The princess in attendance to the imperial consort Yang was brought forth, bowing respectfully before Cheng Chumo. Greetings, Duke of Cheng, the maidservant announced, producing a letter from her bosom. Just as Cheng Chumo reached to take it, Empress Changsun interjected. Do not. With a keen eye, Empress Changsun noticed a powder on the envelope. Cheng Chumo immediately retracted his outstretched hand. The maidservant's gaze turned icy as she stepped forward, attempting to press the envelope against Cheng Chumo's face. He leaned back to evade her, delivering a swift kick to her abdomen. The maidservant was sent sprawling 3 meters away, collapsing and spitting blood. As she looked at Cheng Chumo, a bitter smile formed on her lips. Father, mother, I am sorry, she murmured before losing consciousness. Cheng Chumo frowned and approached the girl, noticing that the hand holding the envelope had turned black. Do you wish to die? Huh. Cheng Chumo produced a pill and forced it into her mouth. The girl gradually regained consciousness, realizing she was bound tightly, her right hand missing. Why save me? She asked. Cheng Chumo regarded her intently. I wish to understand why you sought to kill me. The girl fell silent. What a pity. I can trace your family lineage back to the 18th generation. Your silence will not avail you, he asserted. Tears streamed down the girl's face as she gazed at Cheng Chumo, her eyes pleading. Please, do not ask. Just kill me. It was all my doing. And no one else is implicated. Cheng Chumo shook his head. The girl, despondent, feared for her parents' safety, knowing she could not escape her fate. You are now in my service. Do you have any idea how valuable that pill was? If you wish to die, you may, but you owe me a debt. I will not inquire about those who sought my life, but the debt must be repaid. That is my principle, Cheng Chumo declared. The girl stared at him in disbelief. Is this truly the legendary Cheng Chumo? In that fleeting moment, she felt compelled to follow him, recognizing his worthiness of her loyalty. Yet, she could not. Her parents were being threatened, and if she failed her task, she would surely perish. I will not repay you. Just kill me, the maidservant insisted. Cheng Chumo chuckled and rose to his feet. You are not the only one who has attempted to poison me. Have you heard of Li Huan? She is now my steward, second only to me. The maidservant, well aware of Li Huan's reputation, the only person who had offended Cheng Chumo and lived to become his personal steward, felt her resolve waver. But thoughts of her parents overwhelmed her. Cheng Chumo sensed the difficulty of the situation. Empress Changsun entered, and the maidservant attempted to rise to pay her respects. Grimacing in pain. No need for formalities. I am no longer the empress, Empress Changsun remarked. The maidservant remained silent, as those within the palace were astutely aware of the current circumstances surrounding Empress Changsun. Do not place your faith solely in historical texts. Often, unofficial accounts are more trustworthy, as they reveal the true nature of events. History is written by the victors. Do they ever criticize themselves? No. Do they ever tarnish their own image? No. They only chronicle the prosperous eras. I understand your concern for your parents. You are a dutiful child. I will not allow Cheng Chumo to make things difficult for you. Empress Changsun reassured her, tenderly stroking the maidservant's hair. Tears streamed down the maidservant's face. Your Highness, I am so sorry, she choked out. Empress Changsun smiled gently. Chumo, fetch her some food. Untie her. She is unaware of who wishes to kill you. Indeed, you speak wisely. Those who seek Cheng Chumo's life are not ordinary individuals. A mere maidservant could not possibly encounter the mastermind behind such schemes. She is unworthy, Cheng Chumo remarked as he rose to prepare food. The special operative entered to assist in unbinding the maidservant and rewrapping her injuries. Be good, it does not hurt. To still be alive is a stroke of fortune. Empress Changsun added. The maidservant bit her lip, nodding, her lips having been torn and blood trickling forth. Empress Changsun offered her a handkerchief to wipe her tears. The maidservant, enduring the pain, knelt before her. My life belongs to your Highness, she stated, staring calmly at Empress Changsun. Empress Changsun patted her head, her actions stemming from kindness rather than an ulterior motive to win loyalty. Rest and recover. If the opportunity arises, I will ensure Cheng Chumo rescues your parents. Empress Changsun promised. The maidservant nodded, fully aware that her parents were likely already dead, as there would be no evidence left by those who sought to harm them. As Empress Changsun departed, the maidservant vowed, Father, Mother, if you are harmed, I shall avenge you. I may be handless, but I will bite them to death. Her expression turned fierce. A seemingly fragile maidservant had been driven to the brink. All she had wanted was to deliver a message, yet upon leaving the palace, she was intercepted by someone adorned in finery. However, the maidservant recognized him as a eunuch, for no one understood eunuchs better than palace maids. Their scent was unmistakable. Your Highness, I have something to say, the maidservant called out as the special operative entered. That man appeared to be a eunuch, she informed him. The special operative hurried to relay the message. Inside the carriage, the special forces conveyed the words of the maidservant. Cheng Chumo wore a cold smile. A eunuch? Is the spear aimed at Li Shimin? Until the very last moment, Li Shimin would never take such a step. Eunuchs are not confined to the palace. Let us ponder who wishes to poison me, Cheng Chumo remarked. Empress Zhangsun chuckled softly. I cannot say, but you must be cautious moving forward, she advised. Cheng Chumo nodded, grateful for Empress Zhangsun's presence. Without her, it would have been his severed hand. Who desires to witness a confrontation between Li Shimin and Cheng Chumo? Regardless of who seeks my demise, I vow to annihilate their entire clan, Cheng Chumo declared. Empress Zhangsun nodded. Exterminate them all, she affirmed. By the way, what does Empress Yang seek from you? She inquired further. What else could it be? If I can save Li Yu, then I can certainly save Li Ko. She wishes for me to rescue her son, Cheng Chumo replied. Empress Zhangsun was skeptical, doubting that Li Shimin would harm Li Ku. The boy is naturally intelligent and humble. Would Li Shimin truly be so heartless? Surely not, for Li Ku is quite sensible, she stated. Cheng Chumo embraced Empress Zhangsun, feeling a shift in their rapport. Li Ku is indeed exceptional, yet his maternal grandfather is Yang Guang, Cheng Chumo noted. Empress Zhangsun sighed inwardly, pondering the underlying reasons. If Empress Xiao had not entered the palace, would Li Ku have met his tragic fate? It is a possibility. Empress Xiao posed a threat to the officials, making it perilous for Li Ku to survive. Even mounting a horse could lead to impeachment. Empress Zhangsun closed her eyes, leaning against Cheng Chumo's shoulder. Truly chaotic. This cruel imperial family. Cheng Chumo remained silent, contemplating who might want to harm him. He recalled a certain individual, someone he had turned into a eunuch in Luoyang, Helan Chushi. The Helan family harbors considerable ambition, he mused. Empress Zhangsun tilted her head, as Cheng Chumo whispered into her ear. How bothersome, she retorted. Cheng Chumo fell silent. It was unintentional. He playfully nipped at her ear, causing her to tremble, instantly becoming as soft as cotton. Cheng Chumo found it amusing. The switch truly works well. Chapter 166. The city of Reverse Flow. The camp gained an additional 10,000 slaves, which Cheng Chumo redistributed. The Tianyuan Left Guard now boasted a strength of 40,000. Such power could carve out a territory within the Tang dynasty. Given another 6 months, the Tianyuan Left Guard would evolve into an exceptionally formidable army. My lord, when shall we engage in combat? The Special Forces captain inquired. Anytime, Chung Chumo replied. He was indifferent to the timing of the contest, focusing instead on how the special forces trained their troops. Combat was straightforward, soldiers against soldiers, generals against generals. It must be said that the special forces excelled in training. They channeled camaraderie among teammates into the soldiers, and surprisingly, the slaves cooperated, something Chung Chumo had not anticipated. After 3 days of competition, the results were highly satisfactory. Chung Chumo decided to scout a city. Upon investigation, he discovered a city 30 miles away. He resolved to take action against it. The entire army broke camp and advanced towards the city. Upon arrival, the city lord surrendered without hesitation, having been instructed by Songzan Ganbu to avoid conflict with Chung Chumo, who would slaughter the city if provoked. "Welcome, Duke of Chung, to the city of reverse flow," the city lord proclaimed. "This city is steeped in legend. Princess Wencheng once passed through, longing for her mother, and took out the sun and moon mirror, her mother's favorite possession. Expecting to see her mother's visage, she was instead met with her own haggard reflection. In a fit of rage, she shattered the mirror, which transformed into 2 mountains, blocking the river and causing it to flow backward. Henceforth, they were called the Sun and Moon Mountains, also known as the Mountains of Reverse Flow." Chung Chumo was at a loss for words. He had intended to test his combat prowess, yet the city lord had capitulated so readily. "How many inhabitants does this city hold?" Chung Chumo asked. The city lord forced a smile. "They are all common folk. I have stored the weapons in the warehouse. You may take possession at any time." The city lord, in his simplicity, disbanded the army, believing that Chung Chumo would not resort to slaughter. Chung Chumo had never intended to do so. There was no profound enmity between the Tang and Tubo. "Enter the city," Chung Chumo commanded. The army marched into the city, which had a population of 1,500, typical of most Tubo cities. Once inside, the rebels commenced negotiations with Songzan Ganbu. Their sole aim was to eliminate Chung Chumo or drive him out. With his presence, the rebels dared not confront Songzan Ganbu in battle. Indeed, Songzan Ganbu harbored this intention. He resolved to temporarily reconcile with the rebels, surrounding Chung Chumo with their 2 armies from the north and south, compelling him to break out and return to the Tang. Chung Chumo found himself surrounded, utterly exasperated. Songzan Ganbu was truly foolish, unable to distinguish friend from foe. Standing atop the city wall, which was merely 3 meters high, Chung Chumo understood that the city could not withstand a siege. He perceived the intentions of both parties. It was merely a matter of clearing the area. The Tang had already consented to marry off a princess, and the rebels were surely aware of this news. They yearned for a swift resolution. Once the marriage alliance was established, the Tang would seal the Silk Road, depriving them of support from the Western Turks. 2 envoys approached Chung Chumo, directly stating their purpose, to compel him to withdraw from Tubo. Chung Chumo shook his head. "No, I desire this land. Should you refuse to grant it, I shall not depart. I, Chung Chumo, eagerly anticipate a confrontation with you to test your combat capabilities. If your prowess is lacking, annihilating you is not out of the question," he stated. The 2 envoys' expressions darkened. Chung Chumo remained unfazed, insisting, "I must have this land. It is quite suitable, with mountains, rivers, and plains. Do you truly believe that your mere 4,000 can withstand our 1,000,000-strong army?" The rebel envoy retorted, "Surely you jest." Chung Chumo sneered, unimpressed by their bravado. Did they not realize the population of Tubo? Even if they had more, it mattered not. Chung Chumo reveled in brawls. The 2 envoys departed simultaneously. Upon receiving the news, Songzan Ganbu was at a loss for words, finding Chung Chumo a true nuisance, still desiring land. He resolved to observe the situation, permitting the rebels to negotiate with Chung Chumo, hoping for a conflict to arise. The rebels were not fools. They too sought to incite a clash between Songzan Ganbu and Chung Chumo. Half a month passed. Growing impatient, Songzan Ganbu sent envoys to Chung Chumo once more. "Our king has agreed to grant you land, but you must leave this place," the envoy stated. Chung Chumo fell silent. He understood that if he were Songzan Ganbu, he too would wish to expel Chung Chumo, as his presence posed a variable. Chung Chumo acquiesced. Upon hearing this, the rebels dispatched envoys to inform Chung Chumo of their offer to cede the land to him, hoping he would depart. Chung Chumo scoffed, "Are you fools? What cannot be attained on the battlefield will not materialize at the negotiation table. Do you not understand? Do you think I, Chung Chumo, am easy to bully?" He resolved to engage in battle before departing. This was a matter of establishing his foothold. That very day, Chung Chumo marched out of the city. The 40,000 Tianyuan left guard faced the rebels head-on, while 300 special forces confronted Songzan Ganbu. Songzan Ganbu winced at the sight, pondering if this was meant to intimidate him. With a smile, he too wished to gauge the combat capabilities of the slave army. At the front lines, the rebel general wore a grim expression, while Chung Chumo brandished his golden blade. "Who dares to fight?" he declared. A burly rebel leader emerged, challenging. "I will take you on." This man had a fearsome visage, marred by a prominent scar that rendered his already unattractive face even more menacing. Chung Chumo wasted no words and charged forth. In just 2 exchanges, the rebel general fell to Chung Chumo's blade. "Is there anyone else?" he called out. As more rebel warriors prepared to engage, their leader intervened, deeming it a futile sacrifice. "Chung Chumo is not Songzan Ganbu. Even if you kill him, you will gain nothing in terms of power." He continued, "State your demands. We are not enemies." The rebel leader acknowledged Chung Chumo's cunning. You are right. We are not adversaries. I care not whether you or Songzhan Ganbu rules Tibet. My demands are simple. I require 10,000 slaves. And you shall not enter 100 miles around Niliucheng, Cheng Chimo asserted. The rebel leader readily acquiesced. Tibet is vast in land, he remarked. Do you truly believe that without your presence, you can prevail against Songzhan Ganbu? He has the support of neighboring nations. What do you possess? The Western Turks? Cheng Chimo retorted. The rebel leader frowned. What are you implying? He asked, skeptical of Cheng Chimo's words. Having conducted his inquiries and found him to be deceptively shrewd beneath a facade of foolishness, one must always have an escape route. Truthfully, I do not desire your defeat. As long as you remain, Niliucheng will forever be mine. Trust me, do not rush into battle. Development is paramount. Your weaponry is inferior, is it not? I possess a vast arsenal. You must have heard of Fufeng County. I will permit trade with you. Should you seek collaboration, come to me with sincerity. Cheng Chimo intended to dig a grave for Songzhan Ganbu, ensuring the conflict did not conclude too swiftly, thus allowing him the opportunity to cultivate Niliucheng. He was certain that once Songzhan Ganbu eliminated the rebels, he would inevitably turn his attention toward him. The rebel leader scrutinized Cheng Chimo intently and clasped his fists. I shall consider your proposal, he replied. Retreat. The rebel leader decisively commanded. He was tempted, realizing that the Western Turks' support in weaponry was limited. Gaining the backing of Fufeng County would exponentially enhance his power. Cheng Chimo smiled as he returned to the city, emboldened by his confidence. It was clear that Li Shimin would prefer the conflict with Tibet to drag on, and the 7 great families would be keen to engage in trade, with profits soaring during wartime. Little did Songzhan Ganbu anticipate Cheng Chimo's stratagem. In the future, he would require multiple concessions from the Tang for assistance. Niliucheng was destined to become the commercial hub of Tibet. The Goose House War mirrored this situation. Profits from trade would double during wartime. And Cheng Chimo had transformed into a war profiteer, playing the role of the benevolent figure while manipulating events from behind the scenes. Chapter 167, Journey to Shu. The rebels retreated decisively, ceasing their advance on the Tibetan royal city and instead adopting a defensive posture. Songzhan Ganbu's expression darkened as he realized that the 20,000 troops stationed at the border had been summoned for a decisive battle, only for the rebels to fortify their defenses. How could they reclaim lost territory? What if the dispersed forces were defeated one by one? Report. We have received word that the rebels have reached a trade agreement with Cheng Chimo, an official informed. Songzhan Ganbu chuckled bitterly, understanding now why the rebels halted their offensive. It was all Cheng Chimo's doing. He could not afford to act impulsively. Attacking Niliucheng was too risky, as the rebels would undoubtedly seize the opportunity to strike. Is this what the Three Kingdoms stalemate looks like? Songzhan Ganbu mused. The ministers remained silent. This was not the time for idle chatter. The rebels had secured trade, and they could not lag behind. Everyone understood that the Tang's overall technology was highly advanced. If the rebels obtained Tang weaponry, the notion of Tibetan legitimacy would be in jeopardy. Your Majesty, while Cheng Chimo is still in Niliucheng, we should initiate trade negotiations, one minister suggested. Songzhan Ganbu sighed, aware that Cheng Chimo was taking advantage of the situation. Now is not the time for negotiations. We lack any leverage, he replied. Cheng Chimo would surely adopt a dismissive attitude, presenting an if you like it, by it demeanor, as he held all the cards. Send someone to negotiate, Songzhan Ganbu conceded. However, by the time he dispatched envoys to Niliucheng, Cheng Chimo had already departed. A young officer took command of the troops. He was the sole survivor of the Battle of Changbai Mountain and had since grown into an imposing general. Cheng Chimo was en route back to Gansu when he mused. How about raising a giant panda? The Empress Zhongsun, seated in the carriage, nodded in agreement, aware that pandas were only found in Shu. We might as well visit Li Ku, Cheng Chimo added. The Empress fell silent, gazing out the window, lost in thought. What if Li Ku were to rebel? Would she intervene? She rubbed her forehead, feeling the weight of her predicament. She had become a mere ghost, indifferent to the outcomes. Upon returning to Shicheng, he met with Long Gui and Sun Simiao. Master, divine physician, Cheng Chimo greeted, producing a piece of grass that contained a long-dead insect. What do you think of this medicinal herb? He inquired. Sun Simiao took a bite, prompting Cheng Chimo to recoil in disgust as Sun Simiao chewed, savoring the insect. Long Gui and Cheng Chimo stepped back a few paces. After a lengthy pause, Sun Simiao shook his head. It is unusable, he declared. The efficacy of medicinal herbs lies in their properties. Where is the medicinal quality in this insect? Cheng Chimo shrugged off the critique and turned to his master. Master, let us travel to Bashu, he proposed. Long Gui nodded in agreement, and Sun Simiao concurred. In mountainous regions, medicinal herbs flourish. The trio set off. While Empress Zhongsun chose to remain behind, preferring not to involve herself in certain matters, content to stay in Shicheng with Wu Shan. Go fetch Xiazhu. We shall establish a factory here, Cheng Chimo instructed the special forces. Setting up a factory would allow for a strategic connection with Niliucheng, serving as a stronghold for the future. Once the new emperor ascended the throne, Cheng Chimo could advance westward along the Silk Road, having given his orders. The trio embarked on their journey, while the special forces secured Shicheng. In Shu, the land was divided into 3 regions, Jiannan West, Jiannan East, and the Southern Mountains. Shu was of utmost importance to the Tang dynasty, serving as a refuge for 2 emperors during the Lushan Rebellion. At that time, the ruler of Shu was Li Ku, who commanded no troops. Military power resided with Zhang Daliang, the grand commander of the Jian'an Road. Zhang Daliang bore no relation to the deceased Zhang Liang. He was a man of both intellect and martial prowess, though lacking in eloquence. Stubborn and unwavering, he matched Li Shimin's resolve step for step, leading to Li Shimin's dissatisfaction, despite Zhang Daliang's outstanding abilities, resulting in him being dispatched to Jian'an Road. Though Li Shimin may not have favored Zhang Daliang, he placed immense trust in him. Cheng Chumo did not proceed to the government office, but instead made for the mountainous terrain, intent on capturing a giant panda. Ahead lay a homestead, and from a distance, Cheng Chumo spotted a black and white panda sitting at the entrance, gnawing on bones adorned with a large brass bell around its neck. Upon noticing Cheng Chumo and his companions, the panda showed no interest and continued feasting on its bony meal. Cheng Chumo sought to enter the courtyard to meet the homeowner, but the panda suddenly erupted into a cacophony of barks. Woof, woof, woof. Cheng Chumo stood in stunned silence, bewildered that the panda could bark. It was quite absurd. No wonder it was gnawing on bones. There was no meat left on them. Was it true that Chi Yu rode into battle on such a creature? Sun Simiao remarked. Some remain skeptical, as this individual does not appear to possess great combat prowess. There must be reasons behind Chi Yu's defeat. The dragon returns to its path. Dabai, refrain from calling out. Even before the host had exited the room, his voice had already reached them. Did Dabai actually respond with a sound? Cheng Chumo stared at the giant panda in astonishment. Truly remarkable. The creature could articulate human speech? As the host emerged, Dabai resumed its position at the doorway, gnawing on a bone, disregarding the others. As a guest from afar, please enter, said the host. Cheng Chumo clasped his fists in greeting, and the trio stepped into the room. The chamber was furnished entirely with wooden furniture. Uncle, where did you acquire this giant panda? Cheng Chumo inquired. The host, a middle-aged man, chuckled. It wasn't captured. It came on its own accord and requires no feeding from me. It lingers at the door each day, and even if I invite it in, it refuses. Cheng Chumo was left speechless. The rumor that every household in Sichuan possesses a giant panda had seemed far-fetched at first. But now he believed it. The panda behaved like a dog, capable of guarding the home. I wonder if I could acquire the giant panda. My wife wishes to keep one, Cheng Chumo suggested, feeling a twinge of apprehension, uncertain if the middle-aged man would agree. As expected, the middle-aged man shook his head. Young brother, it's not that I refuse to part with it. This giant panda is akin to family for me. As a solitary individual, its companionship wards off my loneliness. Cheng Chumo chose not to press further about the panda, acknowledging that such a companion would not be easily relinquished. A gentleman does not deprive others of their cherished bonds. Suddenly, the panda was seen resting by the window, gazing at Cheng Chumo with wise eyes before departing with a few calls. Cheng Chumo looked to the middle-aged man, seeking clarification, but he too appeared perplexed. Shortly thereafter, the panda returned, entering the room with a small panda in its mouth, gently placing it into Cheng Chumo's arms. Cheng Chumo was taken aback. Was this truly a panda? He suspected someone might be concealed within. Is this for me? Cheng Chumo asked. The giant panda ignored him, instead focusing on the table and departing with a bamboo stool, seemingly intent on dining. The middle-aged man offered a rueful smile. Please don't take offense, it simply adores bamboo. He cast a covetous glance at the small panda nestled in Cheng Chumo's embrace. The little panda was utterly charming, remaining tranquil against Cheng Chumo. As he stood up with the panda in his arms, his objective had been fulfilled, and he prepared to take his leave. Be cautious. It must eat bamboo shoots as well. A diet solely of meat could make it ill. It is sensitive to heat. During warm weather, provide it with a water basin. And do not be deceived by its appearance. It can be quite ferocious, the middle-aged man cautioned, wary that Cheng Chumo might not be capable of caring for it. The little panda clearly belonged to the larger one. He hoped it would not meet an untimely demise in Cheng Chumo's care. Chapter 168. Encountering Li Ku. Thank you for the information. I am also aware that giant pandas enjoy drinking milk and eating steamed buns, Cheng Chumo remarked. The middle-aged man was taken aback, pondering the peculiarities of his words. Cheng Chumo departed with satisfaction, arriving at a stone city, its walls rivaling those of Chang'an in height. He entered amidst the throng of people pushing carts laden with various goods. 30 years on the east bank, 30 years on the west, the mountains were not impoverished then. They could fill their bellies, far superior to the plains. The dense forests were teeming with small creatures, and hunger was a rare occurrence. The harvests were plentiful, and rainfall abundant. The trio meandered through the city, arriving at an expansive estate marked with the inscription Shu Wangfu. Cheng Chumo, cradling the giant panda, approached the entrance. A steward blocked his path. How dare you trespass in a Shu Wangfu without an announcement? Do you wish to meet your demise? The steward shouted angrily, but refrained from physical confrontation. Cheng Chumo nodded inwardly. Had it been any other royal estate, the steward would have surely inflicted harsh punishment upon him. This steward merely reprimanded him. It seemed Li Ku had trained his staff well. Go announce my arrival, informing him that Cheng Chumo has come to visit. Cheng Chumo instructed with a smile. The steward, taken aback, gazed at Cheng Chumo in terror. He was from Chang'an, brought along by Li Ku during his enfeoffment. Cheng Chumo's reputation in Chang'an was well known. Why you? The steward stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. Cheng Chumo's expression darkened. What are you stammering for? Hurry and announce me. He commanded. The steward regained his composure and hurried away. My lord, trouble is brewing. Cheng Chumo has come to slay us. Run. The steward exclaimed as he fled. Cheng Chumo's face darkened with fury. This foolish steward had besmirched his name. Silence. What an embarrassment. Li Ku reprimanded the steward. How could Cheng Chumo possibly come to Bashu while he was currently in Tubo? Come here, you little rascal. Cheng Chumo bellowed. Li Ku, startled, slowly turned around. Sister Cheng Guogong. He began to call out brother-in-law, only to change his words mid-sentence. This single utterance sealed his fate. Cheng Chumo's expression remained unchanged, but his mind was already calculating. He was a man who favored kinship over reason, since Li Ku did not regard him as a brother-in-law. Cheng Chumo would not expend effort to save him, as he was not close to Yang Guifei. The Prince of Shu seems to be quite leisurely here, Cheng Chumo remarked, stroking the giant panda in his arms. Li Ku's countenance shifted, instantly comprehending why Cheng Chumo's demeanor had grown indifferent upon entering. He had addressed him as youngster, but now, he referred to him as Guogong, creating an invisible rift between them. Li Ku was no fool. He understood his precarious situation, even if he remained quiet in Shu. The ministers would find various excuses to create trouble. Brother-in-law, please come inside, Li Ku said, jogging a few steps closer to warmly grasp Cheng Chumo's arm. Cheng Chumo felt elated, inwardly acknowledging that the lad had grown perceptive. You are quite commendable. Ensure you have something to eat prepared for your brother-in-law, he declared with an air of superiority. Rest assured, brother-in-law, I will have some game prepared for you, Li Ku replied, his heart brimming with joy. Cheng Chumo's attitude was precisely what he needed to survive. The two entered the parlor. How is brother-in-law Li Yu faring? Li Ku inquired while pouring tea for Cheng Chumo. He is currently fishing at Sanshanpu, Cheng Chumo replied. Your brother-in-law possesses remarkable skills. Saving Li Yu's life will surely bring him great fortune, Li Ku remarked. His gaze fixed intently on Cheng Chumo. The implication was clear. Saving one was the same as saving two. I have heard you have been encountering troubles lately? That old man Li Shimin claims there is dragon energy in Shu. Is this an attempt to eliminate you? Cheng Chumo responded. He neither directly agreed to help nor outright refused. Li Ku's expression turned to one of bitter amusement. It seemed only Cheng Chumo would dare to refer to Li Shimin in such a manner. As for the notion of dragon energy, it was mere nonsense. A pretext for dealing with him. To be honest, brother-in-law, my origins are rather humble. The ministers are all rebels against the throne. My maternal grandfather is Yang Guang of the Sui dynasty. They do not trust my continued existence, Li Ku confided. Cheng Chumo nodded, acknowledging the reality. Remnants of the previous dynasty posed a threat, and even his father, Cheng Yaojin, would not wish for Li Ku to ascend the throne. Even if he were entirely virtuous, there would still be those who would keep a watchful eye on him. In a seemingly trivial matter, the brother-in-law offered guidance, revealing that a significant business opportunity awaited in Tibet. The risks were considerable, and survival lay in precarious balance. A regional director was urgently needed. Cheng Chumo stated, this is the only chance for Li Ku to remain alive. Li Shimin suspects your loyalty. It would be wise for you to genuinely prepare for rebellion. Li Shimin would rather mistakenly execute than let anyone escape. Brother-in-law, I fear that Father Emperor will not consent, Li Ku replied. Cheng Chumo regarded him with solemn respect, recognizing the rare filial piety among Li Shimin's offspring. Would such a sentiment move Li Shimin? Unlikely. Your father will not endure many more years, once he passes. You must tread carefully, for that will be your most perilous moment. Trust me, while your father still draws breath, he can protect you. Act swiftly. Li Ku, who would meet his demise due to the machinations of Changsun Wuji in the 4th year of Yongwei, was cautioned by Cheng Chumo. Be wary of Changsun Wuji. You are aware of my circumstances, and I cannot confront him directly. However, you can. There's no need to kill him. Merely send him home to tend to his children. Li Ku remained silent for a long while, ultimately gritting his teeth and declaring, I will do it. He was not a man of indecision. Those who sought his end would meet their own. Previously, without support, he was powerless, but now, with Cheng Chumo's backing, he felt capable. Once Li Shimin was gone, the new emperor would ascend. Cheng Chumo would be second only to the emperor, and the aristocracy would not oppose him, for their interests aligned. Any dissent would be futile unless they wished for their own demise. Could the new emperor hope to challenge Cheng Chumo? That was a delusion. What Li Shimin could not achieve, neither could his successor. Li Ku resolved to take a chance, betting on Cheng Chumo's survival against Li Shimin's potential wrath. Every endeavor bore an element of risk. Certainty was a rarity, especially for those wielding great power. Even farming could yield uncertain returns. To dare to gamble was to open the door to opportunity. To shy away was to remain in the safety of obscurity, far from the dangers of the world. Haha, splendid. Cheng Chumo laughed heartily, taking a sip of tea. In dealing with Changsun Wuji, he could not act himself, but would enlist others to do so. With Changsun the Empress watching closely, Li Ku was the ideal choice. In a previous life, he had fallen victim to Changsun Wuji's treachery, and now Cheng Chumo would help him seek vengeance. My lord, the meal is ready, announced a maid as she entered. Li Ku assisted Cheng Chumo into a bamboo grove, where the gentle scent of bamboo wafted through the air, showcasing Li Ku's appreciation for life's pleasures. A few tables were adorned with an array of food, which Cheng Chumo did not recognize. Li Ku drew his sword and cut through a bamboo stalk. A liquid that exuded a fragrant aroma flowed from the cut. Brother-in-law, this is bamboo wine. Do give it a taste, Li Ke said as he poured a cup for Cheng Chumo. Cheng Chumo took a sip, closing his eyes to savor the unique flavor. It was not exquisite, but certainly intriguing. As their meal continued, a servant announced the arrival of Yuan Tiangang accompanied by Zhang Daliang. Li Ke's expression turned grave. Yuan Tiangang was no ordinary man, reputed to possess profound insights. Cheng Chumo remained unperturbed, dismissing the notion of fortune-telling as mere observation of human expression. Allow him entry, but do not extend any courtesies. Prepare the men. Should he show defiance, we shall confront him, Cheng Chumo commanded. Afterward, he glanced at his master and son Simiao, who both nodded in agreement. A worldly sage is not truly wise. Let us engage with him, Long Gue commented. Sun Simiao concurred. Yuan Tiangang's approach to the world differed from Sun Simiao's benevolence. While Sun treated and healed, Long Gue aimed to expose the villagers to broader horizons. Soon, Yuan Tiangang and Zhang Daliang entered the bamboo grove. Cheng Chumo and the others did not even lift their heads. What brings you here? Cheng Chumo inquired. Yuan Tiangang scrutinized him before turning to Long Gue and Sun Simiao. With a respectful gesture, he addressed them. Ah, it is you too. Do not mind if this old Taoist shares a drink. Mind it, Long Gue replied, offering no courtesy. In his view, anyone who sought to harm his disciples deserved no respect. Those alchemists are all from your Taoist sect, yet Li Shimin still finds utility in you? I did not expect that, Sun Simiao remarked, expressing his disdain for alchemists, deeming them a disgrace to the medical field. Yuan Tiangang remained unfazed, smiling as he sat down. Zhang Daliang could not contain his anger. How dare you speak to Elder Yuan in such a manner? You seek death, he shouted. Li Shimin had commanded him to assist Yuan Tiangang in investigating the local dragon energy, and he now felt compelled to protect Yuan Tiangang's authority. Speak another word, and I'll smash this cup over your head, Cheng Chumo retorted, rising and stepping forward to confront Zhang Daliang, standing just a meter away. Li Ke clenched his fists, his heart racing with excitement. This was the essence of life, facing death without fear, disregarding all else. He recalled his past, and how stifled he had felt. Who are you? Zhang Daliang shouted, but before he could finish, Cheng Chumo's fist connected with his face. It was a sudden blow, leaving Zhang Daliang seeing stars. Before he could react, Cheng Chumo executed a shoulder throw, followed by a barrage of kicks to his head, rendering Zhang Daliang unconscious. How dare you speak to my master like that? What are you? Cheng Chumo exclaimed, turning to Yuan Tiangang. What do you want? I ask you, do you seek death or life? Do not presume that just because you are an infamous figure, you can flaunt your arrogance here. You, a rogue, do not belong in my presence. His words struck true. The complaints of the people of Chang'an echoed in the wake of the infamous criminals now tasked with governance. Yuan Tiangang's expression remained unchanged. He had expected criticism upon entering the court, yet he felt no regret. As Buddhism thrived in Tang, he, as the leader of the Taoist sect, had to stand firm. He turned to Long Gue. What say you, friend? Yuan Tiangang inquired. Long Gue stood, declaring, You are unwelcome here. Return whence you came. I wish to avoid conflict. Yuan Tiangang dismissed his capabilities, and at that moment, Long Gue could not chastise Cheng Chumo. To scold his disciple would only sow seeds of doubt. I support you, and yet you would betray me? Yuan Tiangang thought to himself, chuckling inwardly at Long Gue's reputation. Bowing respectfully, he said, I have come to pay my respects to both esteemed brothers. They had lived through several dynasties, and any conflict was but a plaything to them, lacking genuine emotion. One does not strike those who come with a smile. Long Gue gestured for them to sit. Li Ke hastily arranged seats, his heart racing with excitement. Having witnessed such a scene outside imperial authority for the first time, Cheng Chumo returned to his seat, continuing to drink, dismissing the unconscious figure on the ground as unworthy of his company. What is he doing here? Cheng Chumo asked, as the servants hurried to remove Zhang Daliang. Glancing at Li Ke for guidance, Li Ke's expression was grim. These household servants were competent in many respects, yet utterly lacking in discernment. At that moment, who would dare to contradict Cheng Chumo? To avoid punishment, Li Ke stood up and vehemently berated the servants. Do you not comprehend what I am saying? He demanded. After delivering his reprimand, he turned to Cheng Chumo, his face a mask of ingratiation. Brother-in-law, after all, he is the grand commander of the army. Perhaps we should send him back? Li Ke continued, genuinely reluctant to offend Zhang Daliang. Primarily out of fear of being reported, he had grown somewhat timid over the years. Cheng Chumo, in a fit of anger, struck Li Ke on the back of the head. You fool. You are a prince. What is a mere grand commander to you? Bind him up and wait until I finish drinking before I deal with him, Cheng Chumo ordered, his annoyance palpable. It was no wonder he faced daily accusations. With such incompetence, who would not take advantage of him? Li Ke's mouth twitched in frustration, lamenting the well-intentioned yet misguided actions. He cast a sympathetic glance at the unconscious Zhang Daliang, who was hastily tied up in the bamboo grove. Master Long, I predict the fortunes of the Tang dynasty. A prosperous era is already destined, Yuan Tiangang proclaimed, paying no heed to Zhang Daliang. Long Gue nodded indifferently. Indeed, prosperity is undeniable. Yet I cannot comprehend how one could achieve success without effort, he remarked. Long Gui held little respect for Li Shimin's methods of employing people. To him, they appeared rather base. Loyal ministers and valiant generals are disregarded unless they have committed some error. How does one treat their deserving subjects in such a manner? Li Shimin believes in elixirs, yet Qing Chumo was immediately denounced as fraudulent. What was the outcome? He was relegated to Fufeng County. In the end, Li Shimin succumbed to poison, shifting the blame onto his disciple, and even coerced Qing Chumo into consuming the elixir with imperial authority. Were it not for his foresight in having Sun Simiao concoct a sugar figure to counteract the poison, what fate would Qing Chumo have met? The court is no child's play. Certain tactics must be employed, Yuan Tiangang asserted. In truth, Yuan Tiangang was no stranger to employing extreme measures himself. He had encountered Wu Mingyang in her youth and had refrained from acknowledging her when they met at the Ganlu Palace. This was his safeguard. Well then, what do you have to say about the royal aura of Shu? Do not assume that longevity and experience grant you the liberty to speak recklessly, Sun Simiao retorted. His tone laced with disdain. He could not tolerate Yuan Tiangang's pretense of superiority, likening it to a fox discussing the intricacies of ancient tales. Bashu, the land of abundance, undoubtedly possesses dragon energy, and I am not speaking frivolously, Yuan Tiangang stated, casting a glance at Qing Chumo, his meaning unmistakable. Qing Chumo was infuriated. Who possesses dragon energy? This is forcing me into disloyalty. I have strength, but never aspired to the throne. Yuan Tiangang was courting death. Without a reasonable explanation, Qing Chumo resolved to eliminate him. Such words should not be uttered lightly. Yuan Tiangang fell silent, as did Long Gui and Sun Simiao. Let us drink, Long Gui suggested, raising his cup. Yuan Tiangang smiled and joined him. The three of them drank, while Qing Chumo, bewildered, wondered how a debate could so swiftly turn into revelry. Finding it tedious, he rose to leave and attend to Zhang Daliang. Li Ku followed closely, fearing that Qing Chumo might harm Zhang Daliang. Long Gui turned to Yuan Tiangang, who anticipated his question. You are more aware than I of the situation between Empress Changsun and Qing Chumo. The announcement of the Empress's death in Chang'an cannot escape my notice, Yuan Tiangang stated. Long Gui nodded, already grasping the implications. Qing Chumo and Changsun Wugo must have engaged in something significant. The Empress, as a phoenix, naturally attracted dragon energy to Qing Chumo. The distance between Tubo and Shu was not great. Yuan Tiangang likely calculated based on the vicinity of Gansu, referring to Shu directly because he knew no one would believe him if he mentioned Gansu. The region where the three kingdoms converged would disperse any dragon energy present. Chapter 170. Zhang Daliang. Long Gui was at a loss for words. How had the two become entangled? Sun Simiao, however, appeared unconcerned. Old Gui, you are too sensitive. What does it matter? The more power Qing Chumo wields, the better. Let him gather medicinal herbs. Sun Simiao remarked. A physician's intimate knowledge of the human body differs from that of others. They understand anatomy and thus do not shy away from contact. Nurses are similar. If one were to dissect a hospital, the true complexities of human nature would become apparent. The three men fell silent, toasting one another. Zhang Daliang awoke, glaring at Qing Chumo. Who are you? I am the Grand Commander of the army in Jiannan, he declared, unyielding. Qing Chumo scoffed. The Grand Commander of the Tang Dynasty? There are only a handful of true military commanders. I am so frightened. I think I shall beat you again, he retorted, proceeding to deliver another round of blows to Zhang Daliang. Coughing violently, Zhang Daliang expelled blood, not due to Qing Chumo's strikes, but because he was already ill. Qing Chumo was careful not to inflict internal injuries. What is wrong with you? Qing Chumo asked. After a moment, Zhang Daliang took a deep breath, feeling physically and mentally relieved after the blows. He often suffered from chest tightness and would turn red with anger. I feel comfortable, Zhang Daliang admitted, experiencing a sense of liberation. Qing Chumo's expression darkened, cursing the man for finding comfort in being beaten. He could not fathom the torment of someone struggling to breathe. Zhang Daliang cast a grateful glance at Qing Chumo. I am not very articulate. I misspoke earlier. You can hit me a few times, and we shall be even, he said, clearly aware of his own stubbornness, which had led to his being dispatched to Jiannan by Li Shimin. Qing Chumo found himself rather fond of this straightforward man, who took the beating in stride. Such a person should not meet an early demise. He resolved to have a skilled physician examine Zhang Daliang's condition. You are quite acceptable. I, Qing Chumo, am not petty. Let this matter rest, he said as he began to untie Zhang Daliang. Zhang Daliang shook his arms. To be honest, after a beating, my back is not sore, nor are my legs tired. I have not eaten since arriving. Bring me something to eat. Being beaten is exhausting, he declared, proceeding to the table to help himself to food. Li Ke looked on dumbfounded. Brother-in-law, do you think he is unwell? He asked, having never encountered someone so carefree. He could not fathom how one could remain so nonchalant after such treatment. If it had been him, he would have lost sleep for days, ruminating over it. Qing Chumo shot Li Ke a glare, reflecting on how he too had endured daily beatings without complaint. The three men resumed their seats and began to drink. Old Zhang, what did Li Shimin summon you for? Qing Chumo inquired, pouring wine for Zhang Daliang. His Majesty instructed me to gather evidence to slander the Shu King and restrict his movements, Zhang Daliang replied. Li Ke listened in disbelief, incredulous at the audacity of such a plan. This is a means of protecting you, Yuan Tiangang chuckled. Qing Chumo's expression darkened. He viewed Yuan Tiangong's remarks as mere showmanship. He shot Yuan Tiangong a glare. Old Zhang, your health is concerning. If you give me 100,000 coins, I will seek a physician to assist you. Cheng Chimo added, turning his attention back to Zhang Daliang. Zhang Daliang took a bite of meat and shook his head vigorously. I have no money. I need to save it for my daughter's dowry, he stated, genuinely lacking funds, primarily because he did not know how to earn. A pauper indeed. Cheng Chimo curled his lips and shifted his body away from Zhang Daliang. Li Ke found it amusing that Zhang Daliang was so oblivious. Was Cheng Chimo's intent not sufficiently clear? My brother-in-law, the Grand Governor, is the wealthiest man in the Tang dynasty. You are aware of Fufeng County, aren't you? It is a land of riches, Li Ke chuckled. Zhang Daliang turned to Cheng Chimo, nodded, and continued to eat. Cheng Chimo's expression darkened. I have a route in Gansu. Last time, the Turks secretly transported weapons to the Tubo, but I intercepted them. I lack the manpower. Are you in? Cheng Chimo stated. It was best to be straightforward when conversing with Zhang Daliang. 1 guan per person. You pay me, and I will provide the men, Zhang Daliang replied. He pondered for a moment before adding, 1 guan a month. Zhang Daliang had his own motivations. He had hundreds of servants who could collectively earn him several hundred guan each month, leading to wealth over the years. How many men do you have? Cheng Chimo inquired. He was indifferent to Zhang Daliang's price since it was all Turkic money. He wouldn't feel remorse as long as he could prevent the Turks from supplying weapons to the Tubo rebels. Without Turkic supplies, they would have no choice but to purchase from the city of Nilio, which would be the true time to profit. Zhang Daliang held up 5 fingers. 500. Cheng Chimo stood up and walked away. What was the point of discussing 500 with him? He picked up a giant panda playing in the bamboo grove and ignored Zhang Daliang. Zhang Daliang scratched his head and looked at Li Ke. Li Ke wore a bitter smile. Did Cheng Chimo think everyone had an army like him? Who would dare? Grand Governor, enjoy your meal. I will fetch the evidence of Wan's corruption, Li Ke said. Zhang Daliang shook his head. He preferred to find it himself because Li Shimin had instructed him to seek evidence. Li Ke's expression turned grim. By the time Zhang Daliang found the evidence, he would have already been impeached by the ministers. No matter what Li Ke said, Zhang Daliang insisted on finding it himself. Orders were orders. Long Gui cast a subtle glance at Zhang Daliang, then turned to Sun Simiao. Sun Simiao understood Long Gui's intent. Rest assured, I will not treat him, Sun Simiao replied. They could not allow anyone to know that Cheng Chimo was in Shu, fearing that those with ulterior motives might exploit Long Qi's influence. At that point, Li Shimin would be even less likely to let Cheng Chimo go. In the following half-month, Yuan Tiangong, Long Gui, and Sun Simiao exchanged ideas. Zhang Daliang began searching for evidence against Li Ke. It must be said that he was quite single-minded and meticulous in his work. After half a month, he found nothing. Li Ke was anxious, realizing that the absence of evidence could be construed as the greatest evidence of guilt. Ministers would surely claim that Prince Li Ke was adept at hiding his transgressions, and Li Shimin would believe them. That would lead to real trouble. Grand Governor, I seized grain from the common people last year. Does that count as evidence? Li Ke asked. He had already prepared witnesses. But Zhang Daliang was not following the expected course. After dealing with the witnesses, they quickly caved under pressure. Your Highness, do not try to fool me with false witnesses. I must find it myself, Zhang Daliang stated firmly and resolutely. Li Ke's face darkened as he glared at Zhang Daliang. I suspect you wish to harm me. Li Ke said coldly. Zhang Daliang glanced at Li Ke and turned to leave. Li Ke cursed in frustration, but Zhang Daliang was unyielding, continuing his search for evidence. Li Ke, feeling helpless, sought out Cheng Chimo in the bamboo grove. Cheng Chimo was practicing martial arts while Long Gui instructed him. Sun Simiao was examining bamboo, researching its medicinal potential, and Yuan Tiangong was fiddling with a few copper coins. Historical records noted that Yuan Tiangong could divine fortunes by weighing bones. Where was that scale? That stubborn fool. I cannot manage him, Li Ke said, sitting down, visibly displeased. Cheng Chimo halted his training. Foolish one, if you hit him. Wouldn't that provide the best evidence? Are you oblivious, or is he? Have you not seen him flaunting before you every day? Cheng Chimo remarked. Chapter 171. A necessary choice. Li Ke paused, struck by a revelation. Yes, hitting him would serve as the most compelling evidence. No wonder Zhang Daliang was always around him. With a bitter smile, he realized that the fool was, in fact, himself. Zhang Daliang had afforded him countless opportunities, and he had failed to recognize them. If Li Ke were to strike Zhang Daliang, the latter would have a valid reason to bring Li Ke back to Chang'an for justice. Your son struck me. You cannot simply ignore it, he would argue. Li Ke would be absolved from his duties as Grand Governor of Jiannan, and Li Shimin would certainly command his return to the capital. Once back in the capital, Li Ke would be quite safe. No one would dare to act against him under Li Shimin's watchful gaze. Li Ke rose and found Zhang Daliang. Grand Governor, I apologize, he said, and then kicked Zhang Daliang in the rear. Zhang Daliang fell to the ground, convulsing for a moment before getting up. You dare strike a court official? I shall report this truthfully, he said, leaving with his hands behind his back. That charge was just right, not too severe, yet not insignificant. Zhang Daliang would not be suspected of framing a prince, and Li Ke's punishment would not be overly harsh. Officials are not fools, although Zhang Daliang seemed straightforward. He had his own methods. He understood the gravity of the charges, being struck or framing a prince. Li Ke smiled ruefully. Indeed. His brother-in-law was well aware of the nuances of stubbornness. Once again, he approached the bamboo grove. Cheng Chimo was holding the giant panda. Has the matter been settled? Cheng Chimo asked. Li Ke nodded with a bitter expression, feeling disheartened. Cheng Chimo handed the panda to Li Ke. Send it to Shicheng in Gansu, along with some bamboo. The special forces will take care of it, Cheng Chimo instructed. Li Ke agreed. Cheng Chimo patted his shoulder. Rest assured, you will be fine. Li Shimin is not muddled yet, but the future is uncertain. Cheng Chimo cast a deep glance at Li Ke before departing. He could not return to the capital with Li Ke. Li Ke clasped his hands in a salute towards Cheng Chimo's retreating figure. Flies do not buzz around a seamless egg. Ultimately, only Li Ke was aware of the true circumstances. Cheng Chimo's pat on his shoulder served as a warning, which Li Ke comprehended. Sending the panda was also a gesture of caution. It reminded him that the special forces were in Gansu, implying that if he caused trouble, they would certainly intervene. Cheng Chimo and the others left Shu, making their way toward Chang'an. Cheng Chimo was prepared to confront Li Shimin. Chang'an remained vibrant and prosperous. Cheng Chimo entered the city alone, while Long Gui and Sun Simiao sought an excuse to leave, unwilling to meet Li Shimin. Wandering through Chang'an after a year and a half away, Cheng Chimo noticed the city walls had grown taller and the people wealthier. Standing before the palace gates, the soldiers were on high alert. I wish to see His Majesty. Please notify him, Cheng Chimo said, dressed in the attire of a nobleman. With his hands behind his back, the soldiers, not daring to delay, went to inform the emperor. Soon, Cheng Chimo arrived at the Hall of Sweet Dew. Li Shimin had cleared the hall of others, and the two men exchanged glances. Sit down. You have handled the Tubo situation quite well. The Tang dynasty does not require a complete neighbor, Li Shimin said with a smile, his tone casual, as though conversing with a friend. Cheng Chimo did not hold back and took a seat, sipping tea. The times have truly changed. Your tea has greatly improved, he remarked. He still remembered the first time he had tea in the palace. It was quite dreadful. Now, it had transformed into something exquisite. This signified that the aristocracy could no longer deceive Li Shimin. They had surrendered. From being impoverished to wealthy, Li Shimin had taken a full decade to achieve this transformation. Over the course of a decade, he dismantled the aristocratic families and elevated the common scholars, achieving remarkable success. The noble families no longer dared to overstep their bounds. My accomplishments shall be judged by future generations, Li Shimin remarked, his tone tinged with arrogance, confident that history would regard him favorably. At the very least acknowledging that his merits outweighed his faults. With a clap of his hands, a group of singing girls entered to perform a dance, while the two continued their conversation. As the music concluded, Li Shimin inquired, will Mai Qin Wang Pei Zhan Yue be remembered for eternity? He laughed heartily. Cheng Chimo, however, wore a dark expression. In their brief exchanges, he sensed a change in Li Shimin. Unfazed by Cheng Chimo's demeanor, Li Shimin believed it to be envy. Tomorrow is my birthday, and I have decided to grant a general amnesty and host a grand banquet, summoning envoys from various nations, he added. Cheng Chimo merely drank in silence. I shall grant you an opportunity. If you can achieve the impossible, hanging oil lamps upside down and making roads bloom with flowers, I shall not hinder you. Do you dare accept this challenge? Li Shimin proposed. Cheng Chimo looked at him, questioning whether the task was too ambitious. Upside-down oil lamps? Flowering roads? Was Li Shimin somehow a time traveler? How did he know that modern lamps hung in such a manner? How was he aware of the tire marks on contemporary roads? Li Shimin smiled, but said nothing. Cheng Chimo stood up, expressing his concern. I fear you may not live to see that day. These tasks require time. Upside-down lamps need bulbs and electricity, while flowering roads necessitate asphalt and oil, none of which our current technology can achieve. He felt confident that it could be accomplished, perhaps in 10 or 20 years. But could Li Shimin survive that long? His hair was already white, and he might have only 3 to 5 years left. Li Shimin gazed meaningfully at Cheng Chimo, who felt a pang of guilt. Did Li Shimin suspect him of being a time traveler? After a lengthy pause, Li Shimin chuckled. Your time and mine are intertwined. The moment I enter the royal tomb, you too shall be forever entombed. For 3 years, I shall not interfere with your actions. Cheng Chimo nodded, realizing he had no choice. Li Shimin had not presented options. It was a matter of necessity. Cheng Chimo departed from the Ganlu Palace, a bitter smile on his face. Had he truly been discovered? It seemed likely. Opposing Li Shimin would prompt him to investigate thoroughly. The 18 scholars of the Qin Huangfu were no fools. A request from Imperial Concubine Yang for you to visit the palace. A palace maid announced with a bow. Lead the way, Cheng Chimo replied, following her to the residence of the legendary Imperial Concubine Yang. Upon meeting her, he observed, have you ever visited Shu? She inquired. Unaware of his previous journey there, Cheng Chimo took in her beauty. It was evident that Yang Guang had a talent for fathering daughters. And it was no wonder Li Shimin had included her in his harem. State your business directly. I am quite busy, he said. Yang Concubine signaled to the maids, who promptly exited the hall. She approached Cheng Chimo, clad in a green gown that subtly accentuated her figure, exuding a faint fragrance. Spare me the theatrics. Speak plainly. He insisted, stepping back. Yang Concubine seemed naive, daring to entice someone in the palace while Li Shimin still lived. Cheng Chimo dismissed the notion that Li Shimin would harm him. Rather, Yang Concubine would likely be cast into obscurity, indirectly affecting Li Ke, making it impossible for him to avoid rebellion. Can you save my child? Young concubine pleaded. She did not wish to seduce Qing Chimo. She felt compelled to resort to such measures to secure his assistance. Having emerged from the Sui dynasty in destitution, unlike other concubines who had family wealth to rely upon, she possessed nothing but her son, her sole treasure. Chapter 172, Li Chengqian's Rebellion. Qing Chimo erupted in anger. How dare you? Your son has Li Shimin to save him. What are the ministers but mere trifles? Do they dare bully a prince? He retorted, cursing inwardly at her foolishness. You are courting death by asking me to rescue your son. What would Li Shimin think? The palace, seemingly secluded, had ears hidden within its walls. Such tactics were typical of Li Shimin, who was adept at employing both men and women for his schemes. Qing Chimo shot her a warning glance, and young concubine blushed. Finally realizing her misstep, she instantly adopted an aloof demeanor. Thank you for bringing my mother back from the Eastern Turks, she said gratefully. Qing Chimo nodded and turned to leave, pondering the actors that populated the harem, whose roles shifted at a moment's notice. He arrived at the Eastern Palace to find Li Chengqian indulging in alcohol. Li Chengqian did not acknowledge him upon his entry. Qing Chimo's expression darkened. He strode over, seizing Li Chengqian by the collar and lifting him. How could you drink without inviting me? Qing Chimo chastised. Li Chengqian was taken aback, having expected a lecture, yet instead received a complaint about not being included in the drinking. Join me for a drink. Then, he replied. Qing Chimo released him and sat down, raising a cup to his lips. I genuinely envy you. You can go wherever you please, Li Chengqian remarked. Qing Chimo ignored him, drinking deeply while contemplating how to achieve the upside-down lamps. Electricity was not difficult. The challenge lay in insulation, which required expertise. He glanced at Li Chengqian. Noting his poor spirits, perhaps he could serve as a test subject. Do not linger in the Eastern Palace. Come with me to Fufeng County to engage in serious matters, Qing Chimo stated. Li Chengqian smiled warmly, grateful for a brother's concern. All right, he agreed. Qing Chimo was surprised by how readily Li Chengqian accepted. Plans formed in his mind. Li Chengqian could no longer remain as the crown prince. This would be for his own good. Rather than forcing him into a situation, it would be better for him to withdraw voluntarily. Very well, I shall await you in Fufeng County. You should relinquish the Eastern Palace. From now on, we shall pursue scientific endeavors together, Qing Chimo declared, finishing his drink before rising to leave. Li Chengqian watched him depart, and once he was out of sight, he called for his attendants. Come in, he instructed. Ho Junji and 6 leaders of the Eastern Palace entered. Are we all prepared? Li Chengqian asked. Yes, Ho Junji replied. Li Chengqian nodded. The time for rebellion had come. Heh, what are you preparing for? I sensed something was off about you today. Qing Chimo returned, wearing a cold smile. Li Chengqian was speechless. When had Qing Chimo become so astute? This does not concern you. Once I have settled matters, I will join you in Fufeng County for scientific pursuits, Li Chengqian stated. Qing Chimo was enraged. Li Chengqian was courting death. You are courting death, and I cannot ignore it, Qing Chimo declared. He then turned to Ho Junji. You are fully aware of your own actions. Luoyang has been exploited for so long by your future eunuch son-in-law, and I suspect that the wealth has ultimately found its way into your hands. If I am not mistaken, Li Shimin can no longer tolerate you. I would prefer to stay out of your affairs, but you incited Li Chengqian to rebel, and that compels me to intervene, Qing Chimo stated. Ho Junji's expression darkened. He had not incited Li Chengqian. Rather, they had collaborated. If successful, he would be hailed as a hero. If they failed, he would not suffer, for death was inevitable. Before Ho Junji could respond, Li Chengqian's voice thundered with anger. Qing Chimo, I have made it clear. My affairs are none of your concern. Leave the Eastern Palace. Qing Chimo turned and strode away, heading straight for the Ganlu Hall. Upon encountering Li Shimin, he reported, Li Chengqian is plotting rebellion. Qing Chimo urged, we should sell him out. Li Shimin appeared indifferent. No one can rebel under my watch. If he wishes to do so, let him. It would do him good to learn a lesson. Li Shimin remarked. What about the 6 commanders? Qing Chimo inquired. He did not care for Li Chengqian, for he knew nothing would happen to him. Even if the rebellion failed, Li Shimin would not execute Li Chengqian. Those ministers who wished to see him dead would not dare to act with Qing Chimo present. Ho Junji deserves to die. It would be just. It is regrettable for the 6 commanders, for they are loyal. I do not wish for them to perish due to this rebellion. If they must die, let it be in the course of the expedition. Li Shimin scoffed. Does the butcher of cities, Qing Chimo, truly care about others' lives? Li Shimin said, surprised that Qing Chimo would consider the 6 commanders. They must die. I do not wish for their demise. You handle it. Qing Chimo replied. The 2 men locked gazes, neither willing to yield. After a prolonged silence, Li Shimin declared, I will not concern myself with such trifles. If you can protect them from the ministers, I will not execute them. He then sat down. Wu Mingyang hurriedly poured tea. Qing Chimo found a place to settle, intending to keep watch. Li Shimin understood Qing Chimo's intention, fearing that Li Chengqian might encounter unforeseen misfortune. He sighed inwardly, wishing Li Chengqian were not his eldest son, but rather a favored child. With Qing Chimo's aid, there might have been hope. Alas, it was not to be. A eunuch rushed in, announcing, I have grave news to report. His Highness the Crown Prince is planning a rebellion. Qing Chimo regarded the newcomer with a cold smile. Helan Ungshi. Li Shimin's eyes glinted with cold fury. How dare he report his son? Did he require such reminders? Huh. Your Helan family supports Gao Ming, do you not? Excellent. Very good, Li Shimin seethed, suppressing his anger. Helan Ungshi bowed his head. Our Helan family is loyal to the sovereign and patriotic. We support the Tang dynasty. Not the crown prince, he declared resolutely. Li Shimin felt pity for Li Chengqian. Such supporters were hardly beneficial. I am already aware. You may leave. Li Shimin commanded. Helan Ungshi exited. Li Shimin turned to Qing Chumo. Is this truly your brother's ally? Can he genuinely govern the state? Li Shimin inquired. Qing Chumo shook his head. No. Yet he could not say more. Some truths could only be shared with Li Shimin. Who ascended the throne in the Tang dynasty was of no concern to Qing Chumo. Li Shimin ceased to speak, granting Li Chengqian an opportunity, a chance to rebel. If he succeeded, it would be a dream come true for Li Shimin. Outside the Xuanwu Gate, battle had commenced, with eunuchs continuously entering to report. Li Shimin sipped his tea, waving his hand dismissively. There is no need to report to me. I require only the outcome, Li Shimin stated. Qing Chumo took a sip of tea, closing his eyes to rest. To outsiders, this was a momentous event, yet to Li Shimin and Qing Chumo, it was merely business as usual. As night fell, the sounds of battle gradually subsided. Yu Qijingde entered the hall. Your Majesty, all of Ho Junji's forces have been executed on the spot, he reported, bowing in anticipation of Li Shimin's command. Li Shimin opened his eyes. Wait, he instructed. Yu Qijingde did not comprehend the meaning and could only exit the hall. Li Shimin glanced at Qing Chumo, who was peacefully asleep, snoring softly. Li Shimin shook his head and turned to Wu Meinyang. Do you see? With such a person, which of my sons could ever be a match? In the future, the emperor will be bullied to death. Li Shimin smiled. Wu Meinyang dared not respond, but silently admired Qing Chumo's ability to sleep so soundly. His heart as unwavering as a rock. Chapter 173. My brother can forego the title of crown prince at the Xuanwu Gate. The 6 commanders of the Eastern Palace protected Li Chengqian, who found himself besieged, unable to enter or exit. Li Chengqian rode his warhorse. His expression unchanged and his heart unperturbed. He understood the futility of success but felt compelled to act. He needed to demonstrate to Li Shimin that he was not worthless. He needed to prove to the world that he was not a failure. He succeeded. In the end, Zhang Liang did not dare don the dragon robe, and Shui Wanche did not dare step foot into the Xuanwu Gate, but Li Chengqian was bold enough to charge in. No one could successfully rebel beneath the watchful eyes of Li Shimin. This was not mere rhetoric. In the past, Qing Chumo, armed with artillery, had instilled fear in Li Shimin. How could Li Chengqian, with only 30,000 infantry, possibly succeed? Li Chengqian gazed toward the city gates, where the main character was about to make his entrance. Li Shimin, clad in a yellow dragon robe, ascended the city walls. As he beheld Li Chengqian, a pang of pain pierced his heart. He began to wonder if he had erred. Was Li Chengqian truly devoid of merit? Had he pushed him too hard, preventing him from becoming a worthy crown prince? Li Shimin recalled the time before Gao Ming's leg was broken. Back then, Gao Ming was diligent and righteous, not merely putting on an act. Your son pays his respects to the emperor. May I request mercy for the 6 commanders of the Eastern Palace? This crown prince is willing to accept death, Li Chengqian implored. In this final moment, he did not wish for his loyal 6 commanders to perish alongside him. The 6 commanders, with red-rimmed eyes, gazed at Li Chengqian in silence. From the moment they followed him into rebellion, they had not envisioned survival. They would not dare to presume they could defeat the myriad generals of the Tang dynasty. Li Shimin felt a sense of relief. He had never intended to execute Li Chengqian. Such a Li Chengqian was worthy of being his son. Enter the city, Li Shimin commanded. Li Chengqian galloped toward the city gates. As the gates slowly opened, the ministers smiled, believing they had triumphed. The crown prince of the Tang dynasty would change hands from this day forth. Wait, Qing Chumo, hands clasped behind his back, ascended the city walls. He had been roused from sleep by Wu Meinyang, who had pinched him so hard that it left a mark. There was no other choice. Wu Meinyang was upset. Having initially heeded Qing Chumo's advice to assist Li Chengqian, who could have predicted that they would not even enter the Eastern Palace? Qing Chumo had led her astray, and Wu Meinyang seized the opportunity to retaliate against her brother-in-law, twisting his arm as a form of punishment. Qing Chumo nearly cried out in pain. After glaring at Wu Meinyang for a moment, he stood and approached the city walls, aware of his own shortcomings. The ministers looked to Li Shimin, whose expression remained impassive. He needed an excuse to lightly punish Li Chengqian. Historically, any rebel faced death, and Li Chengqian would be no exception. When Li Shimin instigated the Xuanwu Gate incident, it was under the pretext of protecting Li Yuan, while Li Jianxiang was condemned for rebellion. If Li Chengqian were to rebel without consequence, what would the world think? Qing Chumo gazed at the ministers, who averted their eyes, unwilling to meet his gaze. I have warned you not to bully my brother. Why do you not heed my words? Qing Chumo stated. The ministers internally cursed him, thinking him insignificant and dismissing his authority. Qing Chumo observed their expressions with disdain, smirking as he addressed Emperor Li Shimin. Your Majesty, there are those who incited His Highness the Crown Prince to rebel, resulting in his immediate execution of the instigator. Now that the Crown Prince is leading troops to protect you, how do you intend to reward him? Qing Chumo inquired. Li Shimin was taken aback, his expression darkening. He glared at Qing Chumo, realizing that his actions were stirring trouble. The Crown Prince's position was already secured. Qing Chumo's words seemed to vindicate him, rendering all prior efforts futile. Audacious. Kong Yingda stepped forward, his voice laced with fury. Cheng Chimo paid no heed to Kong Yingda, maintaining eye contact with Li Shimin. The ministers were stunned, fully aware of Cheng Chimo's audacity. They never anticipated he would defend the crown prince at such a moment. Seeing Li Shimin remain silent, Cheng Chimo shook his head and descended from the city walls, standing before the 6 divisions. Form ranks, he commanded. The Eastern Palace Guards swiftly assembled. 6 men standing at the forefront, awaiting Cheng Chimo's orders. Their combat prowess was formidable, yet they lacked a competent commander. Cheng Chimo was the ideal leader. Approaching Li Chengqian's horse, Cheng Chimo unsheathed the sword at his side, gripping the reins with one hand and the sword with the other, raising his gaze to Li Shimin. Who dares to fight? He bellowed. Who dares to fight? Who dares to fight? The Eastern Palace Guard echoed his battle cry, their frustrations dissipating as if a great weight had been lifted. They were prepared to charge up the walls, driven by fervor and loyalty to Cheng Chimo. Li Shimin's fist trembled slightly within his sleeves. I am willing to fight. Wei Qi Jingda stepped forward. Li Shimin shot him a glare. Recalling how close he had come to death during their last encounter, feeling no inclination to tolerate his audacity, Wei Qi Jingda's face flushed with embarrassment. Realizing his impulsiveness had placed him in a precarious position, he silently prayed for his sovereign to remain calm. Li Shimin found himself in a dilemma. After a lengthy pause, he sighed. While 1,000 troops may be easily acquired, a capable general is hard to find. The ministers nodded in agreement, deeply moved. The Eastern Palace Guard, previously lacking in morale, had transformed into a formidable force at Cheng Chimo's behest. Your Majesty, perhaps we should first placate Cheng Chimo, Fang Xianling suggested. Li Shimin nodded. Acknowledging Fang Xuanling's wisdom in handling delicate matters, he commanded the Eastern Palace Guard to return to camp, summoning the Crown Prince and Cheng Chimo to the palace, assuring them that he would reward the Crown Prince for his service in protecting him. As Li Shimin descended from the city walls, the ministers collectively exhaled, relieved that conflict had been averted. Some ministers, however, felt a sense of dissatisfaction. Why had they not fought? Li Tai was particularly aggrieved, as Cheng Chimo had disrupted what seemed a foregone conclusion. How had a figure like Cheng Chimo emerged so suddenly? Cheng Chimo smiled as he helped the dazed Li Chengqian dismount. Li Chengqian, astonished, had never imagined such an outcome, particularly with his father tacitly approving of the situation. Cheng Chimo turned to the 6 divisions. Reorganize the ranks, return to camp. Those who obstruct us shall be executed without mercy, he commanded, stirring excitement among the troops. Cheng Chimo and Li Chengqian arrived at the Ganlu Palace, where Li Shimin awaited them, his expression dark and filled with anger. Give me an explanation, he demanded. Cheng Chimo appeared nonchalant. My brother will accompany me in scientific endeavors from this day forth. He has no time to be the crown prince, he declared. Li Shimin, along with Li Chengqian and Wu Mingyang, looked on in bewilderment, struggling to comprehend this turn of events. My brother may relinquish the title of crown prince, but he cannot be compelled to abandon it. It is not merely a matter of choice. We will not resign ourselves to this fate, Cheng Chimo continued. Li Shimin was left in a state of bemusement as he glanced at Li Chengqian, who appeared resolute. The crown prince wished to prove himself, and he had done so. The title of crown prince now seemed inconsequential. I beseech you, father, to revoke my title for the sake of the realm and the Li dynasty. Please grant your permission. Li Chengqian implored, bowing deeply, his voice tinged with excitement, akin to a child seeking validation from his father, filled with an unspeakable pride. Li Shimin's emotions were tumultuous. Was it truly wise to depose Li Chengqian? If he were privy to modern history, he would be heartbroken, knowing that the downfall of the Tang dynasty could be traced back to such a decision. Staggering back a step, Li Chengqian rushed to support him. Free from the burden of the crown prince title, Li Chengqian returned to his compassionate and dutiful self. Li Shimin wore a bittersweet expression. Astute, he remarked. Unsure of what else to say? Father, please take care of your health. Issue the decree. I am too headstrong and unfit to be the crown prince. My brothers are far more capable, Li Chengqian stated. Li Shimin was overwhelmed with emotion, tears welling in his eyes. Indeed. Which child does not act out in front of their parents? At that moment, Li Shimin regretted not nurturing Li Chengqian more thoughtfully, pondering why he had felt the need to coerce his son into rebellion. Was this truly the path a father should take? Li Chengqian's mischief, his defiance, and all his actions had been attempts to prove his worth before his father. Was such a son not worthy? Could he not inherit the legacy? I am hungry. Wu Mingyang, prepare some food, and I shall have a bit to eat, Cheng Chimo interjected. Wu Mingyang glanced at Li Shimin, who was too preoccupied to concern himself. Prepare some porridge. His Majesty has not slept all night and should rest after a light meal, Li Chengqian suggested. Wu Mingyang complied, silently reflecting on how had Li Chengqian behaved like this earlier, for she would have been his future empress. Casting a furtive glare at Cheng Chimo, she exited. Cheng Chimo feigned ignorance, closing his eyes in a daze. Li Shimin regained his composure, grasping Li Chengqian's hand. Let us share a drink together. It has been far too long since we sat down as father and son, he proposed. Li Chengqian nodded solemnly, his eyes reddening. In that moment, he felt the warmth of paternal love. Li Shimin glanced at Cheng Chimo, who appeared to be dozing again, his expression darkening. If you wish to sleep, do so at home, Li Shimin declared loudly, believing Cheng Chimo was intentionally being disruptive. Cheng Chimo stood up. I shall roast a leg of lamb, he murmured. momentarily forgetting his surroundings. Li Shimin chuckled inwardly at Cheng Chumo's endearing foolishness. No, he replied. Cheng Chumo finally registered the situation, glaring at Li Shimin. If you cannot sleep, why hinder my rest? Do you dare to challenge me outside? He boasted, confident that Li Shimin would not accept. Li Shimin's expression darkened. He chose to ignore Cheng Chumo. 10 years ago, he might have entertained a match, but now, it was best to avoid confrontation. Li Chengqian, observing, seemed to encourage his father, as if saying, do not fear him, father. Li Shimin straightened his posture, recalling his youth, when Li Chengqian would gaze at him with such eyes after battles, eagerly seeking tales of his experiences. Every time he was injured, Li Chengqian would lean by the bedside, his face a portrait of sorrow, tears welling in his eyes. The words, Father Emperor does not care, I will blow on it, and it will heal, resonated with Li Shimin to this very day. As the feast was laid out, Wu Mingyang prepared to serve Li Shimin. With a wave of his hand, Li Shimin declared, I am capable enough. You assist that fool with the wine. Li Shimin remarked. Cheng Chumo's expression darkened as he shot a glare at Li Shimin and began to drink. The more he drank, the angrier he became, feeling increasingly superfluous. Li Shimin and Li Chengqian clearly regarded neither him nor Wu Mingyang as equals. Wu Mingyang sensed this as well. She was incredulous, unable to fathom that Li Shimin and Li Chengqian could exhibit such behavior. Her heart was heavy. How wonderful it would have been if Li Chengqian were not a cripple. She believed that with her support, he could undoubtedly ascend as empress. Turning to Cheng Chumo, she implored, could you refrain from provoking his majesty? Cheng Chumo seized a wine jar and began to drink heavily, seething with frustration. Li Shimin laughed heartily. Well said, Cheng Chumo. I entrust Gao Ming to you. Do ensure his safety. Cheng Chumo chose to ignore him. Had he known this would be the outcome, he would have acted differently from the start. Li Shimin was merely reaping what he had sown. Only at this final juncture did he recall Li Chengqian's past virtues. Why did he not act sooner? If he had comforted his son more and consumed fewer elixirs when Li Chengqian was limping, would they have arrived at this point? His son regarded him as a deity, while he treated his son as insignificant. Thus, he deserved to face his solitude. Reflecting on this, Cheng Chumo felt a sense of vindication. His gaze towards Li Shimin filled with pity and mockery. Li Shimin nearly succumbed to anger from that look. Father Emperor, please do not be angry. Take care of your health. If nothing is amiss, I shall take my leave, Li Chengqian stated. Li Shimin's body trembled imperceptibly. The words I shall take my leave nearly brought him to tears. Would he return? No, Li Chengqian would relinquish the Eastern Palace, and from then on, he would no longer be the crown prince. By the time he returned, Li Shimin might already be gone. Li Shimin clenched his fists, forcing a grimace. Gao Ming, in your future endeavors, think carefully. Your father grants you the title of a leisurely prince, the Prince of Zhongshan. Li Shimin managed through his tears. Li Chengqian rose, bowing deeply to Li Shimin. Father Emperor, take care. With that, he limped away. Cheng Chumo followed suit, not sparing Li Shimin a glance. Watching Li Chengqian's retreating figure, Li Shimin could no longer hold back. He rubbed his eyes. He wanted to confess his mistakes, but as an emperor, he could not. Turning to Wu Mingyang, he inquired, do you believe Gao Ming could become an emperor? Wu Mingyang remained silent. I absolve you of guilt, Li Shimin added. His Highness the Crown Prince is suited to be a son. In governance, he lacks the necessary means, Wu Mingyang replied. Li Shimin nodded. If Li Chengqian were not a cripple, he would be fit to inherit the Tang dynasty. Li Shimin had already done all he could. If the new emperor followed in his footsteps, the Tang dynasty would smoothly enter an era of prosperity. Unfortunately, Li Chengqian was a cripple. A cripple could not bear the mantle of emperor, and Li Shimin could not afford to lose face, nor could the Tang dynasty. Li Chengqian and Cheng Chumo returned to the Eastern Palace. At this moment, Li Chengqian's mood was markedly different. His steps were much lighter. The identity of Crown Prince had become a burden, but today was different. He had achieved his objective. Turning to Cheng Chumo, he suggested, Old Cheng, shall we do something? Li Chengqian said with a mischievous grin. Cheng Chumo delivered a swift kick to his backside. Get lost. Cheng Chumo cursed vehemently, appalled by Li Chengqian's shamelessness. A woman approached, leading 2 children. She bowed respectfully. Your Highness, everything is packed. Shall we depart? The woman was Su Wan, the crown princess of the Eastern Palace. A descendant of Su Wei, a formidable figure known from the previous dynasty, held in esteem alongside Yu Wenhua. Li Chengqian's face darkened as he glared at Su Wan. I do not need your reminders. Keep your distance, he retorted, his disdain palpable. Damn it, Cheng Chumo exclaimed, once more kicking Li Chengqian, unleashing a flurry of punches and kicks with great ferocity. Li Chengqian begged for mercy. I was wrong. I truly regret it. Please stop, he cried out. Cheng Chumo seized him by the collar, lifting him. You dare speak to my sister-in-law like that again? I will beat you to death. Do you believe me? Cheng Chumo warned angrily. Su Wan had borne Li Chengqian 2 children, working tirelessly, coming from a scholarly family of no lowly status. Yet he was not content and dared to act this way. Cheng Chumo would not be Cheng Chumo if he did not discipline him. Li Chengqian chose silence. Cheng Chumo delivered a punch to his abdomen. Li Chengqian doubled over, retching. I yield. I will not do it again. He admitted, his spirit broken. Tonight, he was still the crown prince, yet Cheng Chumo dared to strike him. How would he fare once he was no longer the crown prince? The thought brought tears to his eyes. Su Wan bit her lip, her heart aching. afraid to step forward for fear of further rebuke from Li Chengqian. Chapter 175. Returning to Fufeng County. Cheng Chimo, do not strike me. If you fancy her, take her. Why force me? Li Chengqian shouted. In his eyes, women were repugnant beings. Why must the world be populated with them? Only Glass could comprehend Li Chengqian's sentiments at that moment. If only he could send Su Wan away. It would be a form of liberation. Cheng Chimo's eyes widened. This was the first time he had encountered someone willing to pass off their wife, especially to his own close brother. Unable to endure any longer, he pinned Li Chengqian to the ground. Today, I shall tear your mouth open. I will let the wind whistle through. Cheng Chimo sneered. He inserted 2 fingers into Li Chengqian's mouth. To his shock, Li Chengqian actually licked one. Cheng Chimo's hair stood on end. With all his strength, he stretched Li Chengqian's mouth wide, yet he was careful not to truly tear it. Su Wan began to cry in desperation. Please, do not hit Gao Ming anymore. He truly does not dare. She pleaded tearfully. Cheng Chimo remained unmoved. He was determined to reform Li Chengqian. With no other recourse, Su Wan ran to find Li Shimin. Li Shimin was preparing for bed when Su Wan, tear-streaked and distressed, entered. Father Emperor, you must come quickly. Cheng Chimo intends to tear Gao Ming's mouth open. Li Shimin's expression turned skeptical, but seeing his daughter-in-law in such a state, he could not dismiss her concerns. He immediately rose to follow Su Wan to the Eastern Palace. Upon arrival, Li Chengqian was bound to a tree, while Cheng Chimo mercilessly wielded a whip. Li Shimin's lips twitched, yet he did not intervene directly. Turning to Su Wan, he asked, what incited this? Li Shimin was incredulous that Cheng Chimo would strike Li Chengqian without cause. He was certain Cheng Chimo regarded Li Chengqian as a true brother. Gao Ming wishes to send me to Cheng Chimo, Su Wan replied, her voice trembling. Li Shimin's expression darkened. He strode closer to Li Chengqian, snatching the whip from Cheng Chimo's hands. I have neglected your upbringing. Today, I shall teach you a lesson, Li Shimin declared, and with that, he began to strike fiercely. Li Chengqian's cries echoed in the air, while Cheng Chimo watched with a cold smile. Before long, Li Shimin bent over, gasping for breath as he tossed the whip to Cheng Chimo. You take over. Cheng Chimo caught the whip without a word and commenced a new round of frenzied strikes. When Li Shimin grew weary, he took a moment to rest before seizing the whip again and continuing the relentless beating. Exhausted, he once more tossed the whip to Cheng Chimo, who did not catch it, allowing it to fall to the ground. Li Chengqian picked up a large stone, a cold smirk on his face as he gazed at Li Chengqian. Today, I'll bury you. I was wrong. I won't dare again. Li Chengqian cried out in terror. Cheng Chimo moved to act, but Li Shimin hurriedly intervened, thinking to himself, Cheng Chimo, you fool. Stop. Do you wish to die, Cheng Chimo? Li Shimin shouted angrily. At this point, Li Chengqian had grown obedient. Cheng Chimo took advantage of the moment, dropping the stone and pointing at Li Chengqian. Do you dare say that again? Li Chengqian shook his head vigorously, no longer daring to act defiantly, internally lamenting that if Cheng Chimo had struck him sooner, he would have complied without the need for a whip. Li Chengqian, having been released, was bloodied and did not dare to cry out in pain. Su Wan watched with a racing heart, trembling and unsure of how to respond. Li Chengqian wished to scold Su Wan, but a glare from Cheng Chimo made him change his demeanor instantly. Don't cry. I'm fine, he said softly. Su Wan stared blankly at Li Chengqian, hardly believing her ears. It was the first time he had spoken to her like this in years, usually exuding impatience and reprimands. Li Shimin walked away speechlessly, hands behind his back, feigning busyness as he prepared to leave for Fufeng County that night. Cheng Chimo, with a cold smile, thought to himself that Li Chengqian was merely pretending to be composed out of fear of being beaten. This was just the beginning. Li Chengqian, his expression serious, commanded the relocation. A mix of unease and relief washed over him, creating a conflicting sensation. Soon, the entourage departed from the East Palace. Some rejoiced, while others were dismayed by Li Chengqian's departure. Li Tai paced excitedly, while the Helan family trembled in fear. Li Chengqian is not dead. How will he deal with those who betrayed him? They could not afford to remain passive. Helan Ungshi and Helan Chushir conspired together, ultimately deciding to assassinate him and pin the blame on Cheng Chimo. If Li Chengqian were killed beside Cheng Chimo, Li Shimin would undoubtedly believe that Cheng Chimo was responsible, for no one could successfully commit murder under his watch. As the East Palace's entourage exited the city, they did so quietly. Upon reaching the outskirts, the East Palace guards awaited them once more. Li Chengqian glanced at Cheng Chimo. He could no longer afford to retain the East Palace guards, even as a prince. Leave 500 men. The rest will receive a payment of 1 guan each. Disperse, Cheng Chimo instructed. Li Chengqian nodded. The soldiers gazed eagerly at Li Chengqian, wishing to remain, but it was not possible. You 6 shall choose. There can only be 500. That is the rule, Li Chengqian declared. The 6 commanders of the East Palace quickly assembled 500 men. The remaining soldiers were reluctant to depart. You will all go to Fufeng County to collect your payments. Rest assured, someone will comfort you. You may even serve in the East Palace again, Li Chengqian said with a smile. The soldiers were not foolish. They understood that with a new prince, the old guard would not be trusted. Li Chengqian turned to Cheng Chimo helplessly. After a moment's thought, Cheng Chimo decided that he needed personnel for his research, so he permitted them to accompany him. Leave your weapons and follow me, Cheng Chimo ordered. They could not carry weapons. It made the officials uneasy. The soldiers joyfully discarded their weapons, thrilled at the prospect of following Li Chengqian, declaring themselves the soldiers of the East Palace in life and death alike. Upon returning to Fufeng County, it remained unchanged, save for the absence of Cheng Chumo's interference. To engage in research, funding was essential. Cheng Chumo's first order of business upon returning was to convene a meeting. Empress Changsun had informed him that as the rotating chairman, he held a 51% share of the profits. The heads of the noble families had not come. Only the young clan leaders arrived at Fufeng County. Where are my dividends from the past 2 years? Don't tell me there haven't been any profits. Cheng Chumo said, his face darkening. He harbored a troubling premonition that his funds had been surreptitiously appropriated by these scoundrels. Lu Jing's eyes darted nervously. Cheng Chumo's suspicion was correct. They had indeed swallowed his profits. Cui Wenqing shrank his neck, attempting to avoid Cheng Chumo's gaze. He felt bitter, thinking, what fools my family are, prioritizing money over life. Don't they know who Cheng Chumo is? This is bad. If he comes back demanding money, how will we repay him? That could amount to millions. If things go poorly, Cheng Chumo might resort to execution. He silently prayed, Cheng Chumo, I have nothing to do with this. It was all my father's doing. If there is to be any punishment, let it fall upon him. I know nothing. The other young clan leaders were in no better situation, as they too were complicit. You have some nerve, daring to steal my money. Very well. If you think I, Cheng Chumo, am easy to bully, then await your reckoning. Cheng Chumo rose to leave. Cui Wenqing and Lu Jingzhua hurriedly followed. Once outside, they exchanged bitter smiles. Brother Cheng, we can discuss this, Lu Jingzhua said. Cheng Chumo shot Lu Jingzhua a glance. Rest assured, I won't target you. Just watch the spectacle. Cheng Chumo replied coolly. Cui Wenqing shivered, realizing the implication of a lesson being taught. It was all my father's doing. Brother Cheng, you need not show me mercy. Strike him as you will. Make it hurt, and he will return your money. He has even taken a new concubine. Quite beautiful. You could take her as well, Cui Wenqing excitedly suggested. He was deeply dissatisfied with his father taking a concubine at over 60 years of age. He thought it a disgrace. It should be his father who was given a concubine, not the other way around. Chapter 176. Promotion and Wealth. Cheng Chumo returned to the villa, where Su Wan was preparing a meal, and Li Chengqian was drawing something with a brush. Upon seeing Cheng Chumo, Li Chengqian jolted, quickly standing up and forcing a smile. I haven't been slacking. I'm working on a drawing, he said, anxiety coursing through him, wondering if Cheng Chumo would strike him. Li Chengqian had only informed him to research generators, telling him that rotation could generate electricity, leaving the rest for Li Chengqian to figure out. Li Chengqian, having never seen one, understandably struggled, sitting in frustration day after day, deep in thought without success. Some things simply cannot be conceived. It was akin to the Tiangong project. It seemed impossible, yet years later, one would find it akin to a mobile phone. If I have it, so can you. A 2,000 yuan mobile phone now costs 30. Cheng Chumo approached the desk and examined Li Chengqian's drawing, his face darkening. Seizing Li Chengqian by the collar, he growled. What is this nonsense you call a drawing? You must be asking for a beating. With that, he dragged Li Chengqian into the room, and soon, the sound of Li Chengqian's agonized cries echoed out. After what felt like an eternity, Li Chengqian crawled out of the room. Su Wan, wiping her hands on her apron, rushed to assist Li Chengqian. Li Chengqian shot her a glare, causing her to withdraw her hand immediately. Cheng Chumo then delivered a kick to Li Chengqian's backside. Whether it hurt or not remained uncertain, but Li Chengqian's nose was left bloodied. That evening, you all slept together. If I cannot hear your activities, I shall take your life, Cheng Chumo declared with an angry tone. Li Chengqian nodded vigorously, wiping away a trickle of blood from his nose, turning into a frightened mess. Su Wan, her cheeks flushed, hurried off to prepare a meal. Cheng Chumo snorted coldly, then approached the desk to begin drawing, while Li Chengqian stood by, his expression serious. After Cheng Chumo finished his artwork, he said nothing and rose to leave the villa. Gather the 6 guards, Cheng Chumo commanded. The guards stationed at the door quickly assembled. Go procure a coffin, he instructed. The 6 guards complied, and once the coffin was obtained, Cheng Chumo headed straight for Chang'an, arriving at the Li family estate. The coffin was placed at the entrance, and Cheng Chumo strolled inside, hands clasped behind his back. Upon witnessing this scene, the head of the Li family turned and fled. Cheng Chumo sneered coldly, deciding to seize anyone from the main family as a substitute. He swiftly approached Li Jia and remarked, You are indeed unfortunate. Without hesitation, he forced Li Jia into the coffin, who screamed in terror, but Cheng Chumo remained unfazed, sealing the coffin tightly. The coffin was then hoisted to the rooftop. Push it down, Cheng Chumo commanded. The 6 guards, without a moment's hesitation, exerted their strength together. Crack! The coffin shattered upon impact with the ground, leaving Li Jia bloodied and unconscious from the shock. Cheng Chumo approached and kicked him a few times, saying, Consider yourself lucky. Do you not desire promotions and wealth? I shall grant your wish, but inform your clan that this is merely the beginning. I will ensure they meet the same fate. With a chilling smile, Cheng Chumo departed with the 6 guards, heading straight for the Wang family. On the way, he purchased another coffin. Employing the same strategy, he stormed in, capturing the head of the Wang family and tossing him into the coffin, which was then hurled from the rooftop. The Wang family head suffered a worse fate, as the coffin lid crushed his legs, resulting in agonizing screams that grated on Cheng Chumo's nerves. Purchase another coffin, I intend to finish him off, Cheng Chumo ordered. The Wang family head immediately covered his mouth, fear etched on his face, too terrified to utter a sound. Tell your clan to come let me finish him off within a month. If they fail to appear, I shall eradicate all branches of the Wang family, Cheng Chumo added. A young man emerged from a nearby room and, upon spotting Cheng Chumo, turned to flee. Stop right there, Cheng Chumo bellowed, swiftly catching up to the youth and knocking him down with a single punch. Into the coffin with him. Bury him, he commanded. The 6 guards complied. And the young man, the son of the Wang family head, fainted from fear. The Wang family head, enduring excruciating pain, begged for mercy. Cheng Chumo ignored him, digging a grave in the courtyard before unceremoniously burying his son. You may unearth him in 3 days. Dare to do so earlier, and I shall kill you and bury him again, Cheng Chumo warned before leaving. The other families did not escape unscathed, as all the family heads narrowly avoided death. In Ganlu Hall, Li Shimin chuckled. This is sheer folly. They dare to disrupt the rules and undermine Cheng Chumo's wealth. They shall reap the consequences. He relished the spectacle, hoping the families would clash with Cheng Chumo, leading to mutual destruction. Father, I believe the families hold greater utility than Cheng Chumo. We should assist them, Li Tai suggested. Li Shimin, infuriated, retorted, how dare you? Do you know who the greatest enemy of the Tang is? It is the families. He scolded Li Tai for his inability to grasp the situation, affirming that the families were indeed the greatest bane to the Tang dynasty. Li Tai quickly retracted his statement. Father, I meant to say that Cheng Chumo is the true enemy. Li Shimin sighed, realizing Li Tai had misjudged the situation. The position of crown prince lies between you and righteousness. Whom do you choose? He asked, deciding to give Li Tai a chance. If Li Tai displayed humility and compassion, he might ascend to the throne. Li Tai contemplated, I am more suited to be crown prince than my younger brother. Should I be chosen? I vow to carry on the family legacy and ensure prosperity. Li Shimin stared at Li Tai in disbelief, lamenting that he was truly his father's son. Such ruthlessness is rare, and who would believe such a proclamation? A tiger does not consume its own cubs. Li Tai was misguided, believing that Li Shimin favored a heartless heir. Li Shimin did not wish to witness a repeat of past tragedies. Very well, you may leave, he said, rubbing his temples in fatigue. Take care of your health, father, Li Tai replied, leaving the Ganlu Hall with reluctance, as Li Shimin hesitated to name him crown prince. Aware of the potential upheaval, as he exited, he encountered Li Ji, who was carrying a bowl of soup. Li Tai, with a calculating mind, thought of how he had just called Cheng Chumo the enemy of the Tang and been reprimanded by Li Shimin. Little brother, preparing soup for father again? Li Tai inquired with a smile. Li Ji nodded obediently, careful not to stand too close to Li Tai. Earlier, father asked me who among us brothers is most suitable to be emperor. I said it was you. Even if I were to be emperor, I would still uphold the family legacy, Li Tai lamented, patting Li Ji's shoulder as if valuing their brotherly bond. Li Ji lowered his head in silence, aware of the danger posed by such a ruthless older brother. Li Tai's previous schemes, including a staged assassination, had not escaped the keen eye of Wu Meinyang, who had discreetly informed Li Ji. Realizing the nature of his elder brother, Li Ji kept his distance, understanding that such a sibling was dangerously ruthless. Do not mention Cheng Chumo. He is the greatest enemy of the Tang. Father scolded me for saying so earlier, so be cautious, Li Tai warned before striding away. Chapter 177. The future crown prince's position. Li Ji watched Li Tai depart, a smirk playing on his lips. If father appoints you as crown prince, I shall request a fief in Jiangnan to distance myself from you, he muttered to himself. Uncertain of his standing, he recalled Wu Meinyang's advice to remain steady. Yet anxiety gnawed at him. When his elder brother Li Chengxian had become crown prince, Li Ji felt little concern, for he knew Li Chengxian would not threaten him. Li Tai, however, was a different matter. With such a man on the throne, survival would be precarious, even for those who served him. Entering the grand hall with the soup bowl, he greeted, What soup did you make for father today? Li Shimin asked with a smile, grateful for Li Ji's presence. Wu Meinyang stood to accept the bowl. Today, I prepared pigeon soup for you. Please enjoy it while it's hot. I shall take my leave for now, Li Ji said. He was acutely aware of Li Shimin's discontent. His elder brother had relinquished the title of crown prince, and the court was filled with an air of jubilation, as though Li Chengxian were a thoroughly wicked individual facing immediate retribution. Naturally, this troubled Li Shimin's heart. Only he understood the intricacies of the situation. Li Chengxian had stepped down to prove his worth. Had Li Chengxian wished to remain, Cheng Chumo would have vigorously supported him, and the outcome would have remained uncertain. Li Shimin had never doubted Cheng Chumo's capabilities, for he possessed methods that were quite effective in dealing with those ministers. Accompany our father for a while, Li Shimin suggested with a smile. Li Ji settled himself. If you were to choose between Qin Ke and yourself as the crown prince, whom do you deem more suitable? Li Shimin inquired. After speaking, Wu Meinyang presented a bowl of soup. Li Shimin took a delicate sip, finding it agreeable, and then drank deeply before setting it down to gaze at Li Ji. He feared Li Ji might contend like Qin Ke. He wished not to witness further fraternal strife. Li Ji's small face was contorted in thought. He longed to assert his superiority over his second brother, but recalled Wu Meinyang's words. Sometimes, not contending is the greater contest. Rising, he bowed. I humbly request that father bestow upon me a fief, thus sparing us the need for a choice. Li Ji stated. This was a voluntary relinquishment of the crown prince's title, a strategic retreat. Li Shimin nodded. A fief is acceptable, yet remain in the palace, without your soup. I would find it difficult to sleep. Li Shimin chuckled, visibly pleased with Li Ji's demeanor. If you were to become emperor, what plans do you have for your brothers? Li Shimin asked, seemingly without intent. Li Ji's heart leapt. Had the test begun? The brothers have already been granted fiefs, maintaining the status quo as per father's arrangement. Li Ji replied. He exhibited a certain princely poise, neither humble nor arrogant. Do you desire to be emperor? Li Shimin suddenly interjected. I do, Li Ji replied impulsively. Hastily covering his mouth, tears welling in his eyes, an expression of grievance evident upon his face. Ha! Li Shimin laughed heartily, finding amusement in teasing his son. Summon Fang Xianling to see me, Li Shimin commanded. The eunuch hurried to relay the message. Soon, Fang Xianling arrived at the Ganlu Hall, bowing deeply. I pay my respects to your majesty, he said, then turned to Li Ji with another bow. I pay my respects to his highness, the Prince of Jin. Li Shimin nodded, directing his gaze toward Fang Xianling. Recently, Wei Shan has been struggling academically. I would like you to assist him, Li Shimin instructed. Fang Xianling was taken aback. How could he, the crown prince's tutor, be tasked with tutoring Li Ji? The implication of Li Shimin's request was unmistakable. Fang Xianling remained silent. Hesitant to agree. Wei Shan, you may return, Li Shimin said, dismissing Li Ji. Turning to Fang Xianling, he urged, speak. Li Shimin was aware of Fang Xuanling's reservations. Yet he needed Fang Xianling to support Li Ji. Presently, Li Tai's influence far surpassed that of Li Ji. To ensure Li Ji's succession, he must be provided with capable aides, and Fang Xianling was the best choice. My health has been poor lately. I fear it may affect the prince's studies. Fang Xianling replied. He would not support Li Ji, as he was an advocate for Li Chengqian. He was Li Chengqian's teacher, though Li Chengqian acted immaturely. He was still his student, and that was sufficient. Once a teacher, always a father, is not merely a saying. After Li Gang's death, Li Chengqian wept for 3 days. Personally erecting a monument for him, that alone was enough. Such a disciple, even if not a crown prince, would always remain his. Li Shimin sighed internally. He wished to provide a lifeline for his old companions, yet Fang Xianling remained unyielding. After Li Shimin's demise, Fang Xianling faced extermination at the hands of Li Tai. Accused of treason, the entire Fang family was slaughtered, not leaving a single survivor, primarily because Fang Xianling had never been a supporter of Li Ji. Wu Mingyang frowned inwardly. Fang Xianling was not just any minister. His support could significantly ease Li Ji's path. If Fang Xianling were to side with Li Ji, countless ministers would likely follow suit. Fang Xianling was quite unmindful of the changing tides. Li Shimin did not press further. Princess Gaoyang is of age. Let her marry Li Ye, he declared. He had initially intended to offer Fang's family a protective charm, yet he had inadvertently created a genuine storm. The status of a prince consort in the Tang dynasty was notoriously low. This had been the case throughout history. They were often at the mercy of the princess, appearing as consorts yet functioning as mere lackeys, complying with every command. This was also the reason why Li Ye was relegated to guarding Gaoyang during her escapades. She had not regarded him as a person at all. Li Ye had no choice but to acquiesce, and even the green hat, which he once favored, had become a term of derision, mocked by posterity. Understood, Fang Xianling replied, his tone slightly enthusiastic. Li Shimin smiled, and, after dismissing Fang Xianling, instructed someone to summon Changsun Wuji into the hall. Assist the young prince diligently. He is but a child, Li Shimin stated, his expression revealing no hint of disturbance. Changsun Wuji was astute, fully grasping Li Shimin's intent. He quickly bowed. I shall earnestly support His Highness, the Prince of Jin, Changsun Wuji affirmed. Li Shimin waved his hand, dismissing Changsun Wuji, wishing to avoid further conversation. After Changsun Wuji departed, Li Shimin turned to Wu Mingyang. What has Gao Ming been up to lately? He inquired. Wu Mingyang hastily produced a memorial. Li Shimin perused it, his teeth aching from the daily onslaught. As he continued reading, laughter erupted from him. The aristocracy has shown considerable courage. They have finally confronted Cheng Chimo. He exclaimed. Do they dare to challenge Cheng Chimo? Is he the type to suffer losses? This was becoming quite entertaining. Wu Mingyang stifled her laughter, eager to witness the unfolding drama. A eunuch entered. It appears Cheng Chimo has taken action against the aristocracy. He reported. Li Shimin paused, then burst into laughter. Today marked the best of moods. Ha ha. Wu Mingyang could no longer contain her laughter. Li Shimin, unfazed by her amusement, found joy in the news. Duke Cheng has summoned their clan leaders to Fengjun. Those who refuse to comply will be buried alive. And he added, do you not relish promotions and wealth? I shall accommodate your desires. The eunuch continued. Ha ha. Li Shimin laughed heartily, slapping his thigh. 7 noble consorts seek an audience, announced the eunuch. Li Shimin waved his hand, and the eunuchs withdrew. Shortly thereafter, 7 young women, each no older than 20, entered, each one as radiant as a flower, exuding elegance. Upon seeing the 7 maidens, Li Shimin's spirits soared. These were the 7 consorts taken from him by Cheng Chimo, each more enchanting than the last. The 7 ladies immediately began to voice their grievances. Your Majesty, Cheng Chimo is bullying us. My brother has been buried, and he refuses to allow us to retrieve him. Woe is me, Your Majesty, I have but one brother. One of the consorts lamented. Although the 7 were seized by Cheng Chumo, their standing in the palace was not low. The aristocracy had tacitly accepted this situation, providing benefits to Li Shimin thereafter. It could be said that these consorts were effectively purchased. The aristocracy could not afford to lose face. Having reached this point, they were determined to maintain their dignity. Could the daughters of noble families be reduced to mere talents in the palace? This was something the aristocracy could not tolerate. Li Shimin held a particular fondness for the 7 maidens. They never clung to him uninvited, and when he spent the night with them, it brought forth a unique sensation. He often marveled at the distinction of noble women, wondering why ministers preferred to wed second-hand brides rather than pursue one of their own. Wu Mingyang maintained an impassive expression, her heart seething with indignation at these shameless little enchantresses. Silently, she withdrew from the grand hall, retrieving a piece of paper from her sleeve. Having composed a message, she summoned a palace maid. "This is a letter from Sitsi to Duke Cheng. You shall deliver it," Wu Mingyang instructed. The maid hurriedly exited the palace, being a personal attendant of the former empress. At that moment, Cheng Chumo had just emerged from the Chui household, with Chui Wenqing trailing behind, his face bruised. "Brother Cheng, did you not say you wanted me to witness the spectacle? Why did you strike me? I am one of your own," Chui Wenqing lamented. "If I do not strike you, you will be ostracized by those around you and appear out of place," Cheng Chumo replied. Chui Wenqing paused, reflecting that indeed it would be odd for him to remain unscathed while others were not. Grateful, he considered that Cheng Chumo had only given him a few punches, while several others had been buried and left unmarked. How dreadful. The palace maid reached Cheng Chumo and said, "This is from the princess for you," before departing in haste. Cheng Chumo unfolded the note. "You must assist Li Ji. I will help Li Chengqian, yet you failed to enter the Eastern Palace. This is what you owe me, HM. Those 7 little enchantresses are complaining to His Majesty. Tread carefully." Upon reading, Cheng Chumo crumpled the note and stuffed it into Chui Wenqing's mouth. "Swallow it. This is a secret," he commanded. As Chui Wenqing prepared to spit it out, he quickly swallowed it instead, thinking that paper was inconsequential, and in times of hunger, having paper to consume was a stroke of luck. "What shall we do next?" Chui Wenqing inquired, swallowing the paper ball down. Cheng Chumo remained silent, resolved to confront each noble family once more, leading to yet another round of violent encounters. "Dare you still complain? Do you think Cheng Chumo is easy to bully? I fear no one if I am in the right. Even if I am not, I am unafraid. 1 month is excessive, half a month will suffice. Which family dares not wait for you?" After finishing with the last family, Cheng Chumo stood at the door and roared. The members of the noble families dared not utter a word. Cheng Chumo was indeed justified. If he were not, they would not fear escalating the situation. A fight would not matter, for they had their own artillery. What the court possessed, they too would have, as the court was filled with their people. And techniques could not be concealed. Cheng Chumo departed Chang'an, returning to Fufeng County. The emaciated camel is larger than a horse. Cheng Chumo took over all business dealings. The daily earnings barely sufficed for his research endeavors. Copper wire was manageable, but creating an insulating shell proved challenging. Wood was unsuitable, as it was prone to catching fire, generating high temperatures. Animal skin was ineffective due to poor heat dissipation. Iron was not an option unless Cheng Chumo was prepared to risk everything. He scratched his head, unable to devise a solution. "If the scholars know, let me know. I am at a loss," he lamented. "We will start with what we can manage, and the insulating shell will come last." He did possess magnets and commenced cutting them. The task was arduous, yet fortunately, Cheng Chumo had a cutting tool. Carving demanded immense patience, which Cheng Chumo had exhausted. He felt restless, like grass had grown in his heart. In frustration, he hurled a bundle of copper wire onto the ground. "To hell with this. If I continue to be vexed, I shall create the East Wind Express and blow you to pieces, Li Shimin." Cheng Chumo roared in his room, venting his fury, before storming out. He galloped out of the city on horseback, the steed grazing nearby, as Cheng Chumo squatted by the roadside. A group of elegantly dressed individuals passed by, prompting him to look up. His gaze locked with that of a young woman, igniting a furious blaze within him. "You dare to steal a glance at this princess? You seek death," she exclaimed, revealing herself to be Princess Gaoyang. Cheng Chumo stood frozen, having not actually looked at her. The group encircled him. With disheveled hair and a darkened face, despite his fine clothing, he appeared to be an easy target. "You peered at the princess. She shall punish you," Princess Gaoyang declared imperiously. Cheng Chumo stared at her in disbelief. Was someone actually going to strike him? It had been years since anyone had spoken to him in such a manner. Slowly, he rose to his feet. "Even your father would not dare to speak to me so. The last time I challenged him, he did not have the courage. You possess quite the audacity. I am in need of funds, and you have stumbled into my path," Cheng Chumo retorted coldly. Princess Gaoyang was momentarily taken aback, then smirked. Cheng Chumo had not anticipated such a young girl would harbor such a demeanor. She waved her hands dismissively, scattering those around her like fledglings. Cheng Chumo approached her, asking, "What is your name?" "I am Princess Gaoyang. Do you dare to harm me?" She replied haughtily, unperturbed by the sight of her attendants being knocked down. No one in the Tang dynasty had dared to strike her before. Cheng Chumo raised his thumb in approval. "So you are Gaoyang. Today, I shall rid the world of your menace," he said with a chilling smile. Grabbing her by the collar, he turned to leave. He would not inflict serious harm on her, but a beating was inevitable. As her attendants rushed toward Cheng Chumo, They had not anticipated his boldness. Ching Chumo smirked coldly, carelessly tossing Princess Gaoyang to the ground. She landed painfully, her shoulder dislocated, eliciting a cry of agony. Her attendants, enraged by his treatment of the princess, charged at Ching Chumo, their eyes filled with fury. Ching Chumo unleashed a barrage of powerful blows, each strike shattering bones and sinews. His mood, already dark, soured further as these ruffians interrupted him. All his rage found release upon them. Some lost consciousness, while others writhed on the ground in anguish. Ching Chumo's expression darkened at the wailing sounds, and he began to kick those who cried out, silencing them with each kick. Approaching Princess Gaoyang, he sneered, "I am a prince, and you dare treat me thus? My father will have you killed and eradicate your entire clan." She screamed hoarsely. Ching Chumo crouched down and slapped her hard across the face. She was stunned, and then she began to curse him vehemently. Another slap followed, and after 10 such strikes, her face swelled significantly, leaving her speechless, her eyes filled with venom as she glared at Ching Chumo. He scooped a handful of dirt and threw it at her face. She shut her eyes in response. "You better behave." "I, Ching Chumo, truly fear your father not at all," he said with a grin. Such women required discipline. Without it, no words would sway them. Princess Gaoyang was taken aback. Ching Chumo, she thought, her heart sinking. Everyone in the palace knew of him, notorious for his boldness. Even the emperor feared him. Ching Chumo turned to her attendants. "Inform Li Shimin that his daughter dared to provoke me. This was unexpected. If he wishes for her safety, he must provide funds. Resources will suffice, and I will accept mine as well," he declared. After conversing with Princess Gaoyang, he returned to the villa and ordered Lu to confine her. Ching Chumo arrived back at the villa and found Li Chengxian still in the living room. Ching Chumo, enraged, exclaimed, "What did I tell you today? You must sleep with Su Wan tonight. Are you looking for a beating?" As expected, Li Chengxian soon found himself at the receiving end of a severe thrashing, covering his face as he made his way to Su Wan's room. "I will be listening outside. If you do not fulfill your duties tonight, I will punish you again," Ching Chumo shouted. With a sigh of despair, Li Chengxian closed the door and turned to Su Wan, who blushed and whispered, "What do we do with someone listening?" "Let me out," she suggested. "Do you want me to get beaten?" "Hurry and undress," Li Chengxian replied, glaring at her with masculine authority. Su Wan obediently nodded, resigned to the situation, knowing Ching Chumo had no sense of shame. Chapter 179. Those who are despicable often have their own pitiful sides soon. Sounds emerged from the room. Ugh, what a waste. It didn't even last a minute. Ching Chumo cursed as he walked away from the door. Li Chengxian lay on the bed, his face a mix of anger and shame. Su Wan sat beside him, feeling helpless. "Perhaps we should consider a younger princess?" she suggested, tightening the blanket. Having already borne 2 children, they both understood without needing to say much. Li Chengxian looked at Su Wan, silently lamenting the trouble caused by Lu Tong. Su Wan was actually quite agreeable. He pulled her into his embrace, reassuring her, "It's all right, I will buy some medicine tomorrow." Su Wan rested her head on his shoulder, her spirits lifted by his comforting demeanor. In the morning, Ching Chumo continued his futile attempts to study the generator, scratching his head in frustration as the insulation problem persisted. With a dark expression, he took a whip and went to a nearby room where Princess Gaoyang was confined. Upon seeing him, she curled up in the corner, glaring at him with resentment. Ching Chumo raised his hand and struck her with the whip. Crack. Ah! The blow was heavy, leaving a crimson stain on her shoulder. "Look at me one more time," Ching Chumo warned coldly. Princess Gaoyang bit her lip, lowering her head to avoid his gaze, tears streaming down her cheeks. Having been pampered all her life, this was her first experience of pain, and she couldn't bear to look at him again, feeling as though her very soul had been stripped away. "Speak," he commanded again. "I detest silence. It reminds me of myself. My father will have you killed." Princess Gaoyang trembled as she spoke. Ching Chumo sneered, realizing she had not grasped the gravity of her situation. He forcibly pulled her from the room and brought her to a manor, overgrown with sweet potatoes after 2 years. Ching Chumo, somewhat speechless, had forgotten about this treasure. Pointing the whip at her, he declared, "You will dig sweet potatoes. For every one you fail to dig, you will receive a strike." He then settled into a chair to watch. Princess Gaoyang, enduring the pain, began to excavate the sweet potatoes. By midday, her fingers were raw, her skirt darkened with dirt, and she knelt on the ground to work. "Every grain on your plate comes from hard work," he remarked as he kindled a fire to roast the sweet potatoes. The delicious aroma soon wafted through the air. "Come and eat," Ching Chumo called. Princess Gaoyang hurried over, disregarding the heat, and stuffed a sweet potato into her mouth. "Wow, this is truly sweet," she exclaimed, savoring the delightful taste. After praising it, she sat on the ground to enjoy her meal. Ching Chumo tossed a water pouch in her direction without a word. This scene was witnessed clearly by 2 figures standing at the door, Li Shimin and Fang Xianling. Princess Gaoyang was about to marry Fang Yai, but unexpected events had unfolded. She had come to Fufing County to procure fabric, intending to make her own gown. "Your Majesty." "Look," Fang Xianling said, his face filled with concern. This was his daughter-in-law, and he felt Ching Chumo was being excessively cruel. Li Shimin's expression darkened as he paced inside, eventually sitting across from Ching Chumo. "Do you truly believe I would hesitate to kill you?" he said, suppressing his anger. Ching Chumo tossed a sweet potato to Li Shimin, who caught it with a raised hand. This is a valuable crop. I brought it back from my last voyage, and now the yard is filled with it. If we save the seeds, it could yield enough for 20 acres, Chung Chumo explained. Li Shimin frowned, biting into the sweet potato, his eyes narrowing in satisfaction. How is the yield? He inquired. 100 stones per acre, Chung Chumo replied. Li Shimin was astonished. Rice yielded only 1 stone per acre. If this crop were to be cultivated widely, the Tang dynasty would no longer fear calamities. Some may question the modern rice yields, but without the contributions of Yuan Lao, countless people would continue to suffer from hunger. This is not mere fantasy, but truth. Li Shimin gazed at the abundance of sweet potatoes in his yard, elated, recognizing this as a monumental achievement that would be recorded in history. Excellent, very good, he affirmed. Having not glanced at Princess Gaoyang during his visit, he finally rose. For your great service, I shall reward you with a rare metal mine, Li Shimin announced before turning to leave. Fang Xianling opened his mouth, but remained silent. Princess Gaoyang stared blankly at Li Shimin's retreating figure. Is he leaving just like that? Tears streamed down her face, realizing she was not as important as she thought. With a single sweet potato, Li Shimin had abandoned her. In 3 months, Gaoyang will wed. Do not delay my child's marriage, Li Shimin's voice echoed from afar. Wiping her tears, Princess Gaoyang, in a huff, continued to eat the sweet potato. After satisfying her hunger, she needed no further encouragement from Chung Chumo to resume her work. The vines of the sweet potatoes had prickles, drawing blood from her hands, yet she persisted. Take a break today, return to wash up and resume tomorrow, Chung Chumo instructed, placing a bottle of medicine on a chair before departing. Princess Gaoyang bit her lip, rising to retrieve the bottle. She stripped off her clothing from her shoulder and began applying the medicine, wincing in pain. After finishing, she collapsed on the chair, sobbing uncontrollably. What am I to do? Upon returning to the villa, Li Chengxian was already aware of Chung Chumo's capture of Princess Gaoyang. She had no mother and had been raised by a wet nurse. Enduring bullying from everyone around her, forced to hide in corners and cry. To protect herself, she feigned a tough demeanor, though her nature was not wicked. Li Chengxian reflected on this, surprised by the revelation. She has no mother? Chung Chumo questioned, unable to believe it. How could that be? Even palace maids are considered mothers. Li Chengxian nodded, admitting he did not know why she lacked a mother. The palace had many children born each year, including those of Li Shimin and Li Yuan, and no one paid attention to her plight. Chung Chumo rose and left, heading to the courtyard. Princess Gaoyang lay sleeping on a chair, exhausted from the day's toil. He approached her and lifted her in his arms, causing her to awaken in fright. Do not bully me. I am a princess. Let me go? She cried, genuinely terrified. Li Shimin's demeanor left her feeling cold. She understood that even if Chung Chumo were to have his way with her, Li Shimin would remain indifferent. She felt inferior to a sweet potato. Chung Chumo carried her in his arms, while Princess Gaoyang trembled with fear. Please, spare me. I promise to diligently harvest sweet potatoes. I want to be lazy. I truly want tea, she pleaded. Do not speak. Your punishment is due to your willfulness. There are myriad ways to protect oneself. Yet your method is misguided, Chung Chumo replied. Upon returning to the villa, Princess Gaoyang saw Li Chengxian and burst into tears, throwing herself into his embrace. Brother, they are all bullying me, she sobbed. Li Chengxian was her only kin, the one who had never mistreated her during their childhood and would share his treats with her. To him, it was trivial. To the beleaguered Princess Gaoyang, it was the most precious gift. He gently patted her back. Be good, it's all right, he reassured her. Noticing a long whip mark on her shoulder, Li Chengxian's fury ignited. He thrust Princess Gaoyang into Su Wan's care and pointed an accusatory finger at Chung Chumo. You truly are a man, bullying a little girl? Chung Chumo, you have the audacity. Today, I must deal with you, Li Chengxian shouted, charging forward. Chung Chumo, however, remained still, regretting the severity of his punishment upon realizing Princess Dan Yang's tragic circumstances. As Li Chengxian approached him, he hesitated, stepping back and reflecting on his impulsiveness. Chapter 180. The Varieties of Life. Chung Chumo glared at Li Chengxian and then turned his gaze to Princess Gaoyang. Your background is no excuse for your unruliness. There are countless who suffer far worse, he stated, casting a deep look at her. Princess Gaoyang stood there, her face a portrait of grievance, head held high in defiance. Clean her up, he instructed. Su Wan took Princess Gaoyang to the bathroom, where she encountered a bath unlike any she had seen before. No bathtub, just a warm, spring-like experience. After their ablutions, she donned a fresh outfit, standing before Chung Chumo with youthful vigor. He said nothing as they departed. In a remote village of Fufeng County, Chung Chumo and Princess Gaoyang strolled through the streets. Ahead lay a dilapidated house. Fufeng County has undergone great changes. With work, starvation is impossible. And life cannot be this dire, Chung Chumo remarked. Princess Gaoyang nodded, acknowledging that had Fufeng County been undeveloped, she would not have come here to procure fabrics. Many wonder why the Tang dynasty did not wear its own attire. To clarify, the Han dynasty is considered the orthodox era, with Hanfu as the official garment. Akin to today's suits or Zhongshan suits. Women's clothing in the Tang dynasty primarily consisted of the Qi Xiong Ru Kun, while men largely wore Hanfu, with minimal alterations. The two approached a window to observe the interior. A youth cradled a dog, while an elderly man lay on a wooden bed, gazing at his son with an inscrutable expression. He had lost all but one of his children to war. The youngest son adored dogs and treated them as his own. Father, if little black doesn't team make it, what shall we do? The boy asked, visibly anxious. The old man began to cough, his face flushed, clearly in distress. Perhaps from hunger. Go see if there's anything to eat, he suggested after a pause. The boy placed the dog on the bed and dashed off in search of food, finding only half a cornbread. He fed the cornbread to the dog. The old man surreptitiously swallowed hard, his complexion unnaturally rosy. Princess Gaoyang witnessed this scene, her expression darkening. She rushed into the room, seized the dog, and forcefully stomped on its neck. Stop! I'll fight you, the boy shouted, charging at her. Cheng Chumo intervened, pushing the boy down, leaving him sprawled on the ground. As if his body had collapsed, the old man rolled off the bed and crawled to his son. My child, do not frighten your father, he lamented, his frame alarmingly thin. Cheng Chumo turned to Princess Gaoyang. Do you not find the old man's plight tragic? He asked. She nodded, her eyes reddening. After raising a child with such hardship, he is worse off than a dog. Many similar situations persist today, where a dog is treated as a son, while parents with failing health are neglected. How pitiful that humans are deemed inferior to dogs. When confronted, people will proudly proclaim that dogs are man's best friend. Yet, when did dogs earn such a title? Consider whether there are more dogs that save lives than those that bite. What kind of friendship is so devalued as that with a dog? It is truly lamentable. Aside from humanity itself, all animals are merely adjuncts. They might bring joy to your life, but they are certainly not your kin. Your kin are those who nurture you. If one loves dogs so dearly, why not follow them in death? Should they not be buried together? Shedding a few tears, how heart-wrenching. It seems as if a former courtesan has found redemption, shedding tears of excitement, finally able to wreak havoc on the innocent. Princess Gaoyang was indeed willful, yet she was not devoid of humanity. Her aging father lay bedridden, having gone long without a full meal. To be a child, and yet give the last morsel to a dog, such a person ought not to live. I shall kill him, Princess Gaoyang declared, her voice brimming with fury. Cheng Chumo shook his head. The best way to deal with a saintly hypocrite is not through death, but by outdoing their sanctimony. He bent down and picked up the black dog. What a fine dog, reduced to such starvation, he remarked, turning to the boy. How can a dog go hungry? You must provide for it. Your actions are too cruel. At this moment, the boy had risen, his eyes ablaze with hatred. Cheng Chumo's words struck him, and he began to reflect. Indeed, how could such a lovable creature suffer alongside him? He snatched the dog from Cheng Chumo's hands and ventured into the yard in search of food. Yet his home was barren. Cheng Chumo followed, reflecting on the situation. This dog was entrusted to your care. Had it been left to survive in the wild, it would not have been reduced to this state. You truly are wasting its life. The boy lowered his head, tears streaming down his cheeks. Do you believe your father could eat well without you? He gives you the best, yet you allow him to starve. You are truly worse than a dog. The boy finally remembered his father and hurried back inside, but his father was already on the brink of death. As the boy entered, the old man exhaled his last breath, his eyes filled with deep concern. How could he live without his son? The boy dropped the dog, kneeling before his father, and wept inconsolably. Cheng Chumo took hold of Princess Gaoyang, leading her away. Shall we not help him? She asked, her heart softening. His father has not had a single morsel of cornbread before passing. Why should I assist him? He has forgotten his father, preferring the company of dogs, Cheng Chumo replied. The two walked away, arriving at another village, where a widow was drawing water from a well. A group of men eagerly vied to assist. Cheng Chumo and Princess Gaoyang observed from a distance. The widow blushed, wishing to refuse but found herself unable to do so. Without their help, she could not draw water. Soon, a man brought a bucket of water. Allow me to return it for you, he said. The widow did not decline, and the other men looked on with envy. Cheng Chumo followed from afar, arriving at the widow's home. The man entered the house, and the widow forced a bitter smile, tidying her clothes and wiping her hands before following him inside. Shortly thereafter, sounds emerged from within. Princess Gaoyang's face turned crimson. Bah! Cheng Chumo glanced at her, remarking, so you still know to express disdain. You might as well be this widow. The widow, driven by necessity, was willing to offer herself for a mere bucket of water, while the princess was merely tempted. The man emerged, momentarily taken aback upon seeing Cheng Chumo, before hastily departing. Cheng Chumo led Princess Gaoyang into the house. The widow was busy tidying up. The room was neat but sparsely furnished. The widow lived in stark poverty. Upon seeing Cheng Chumo and Princess Gaoyang, she quickly lowered her head, nervously smoothing her hair. The two, dressed in fine garments, surely belonged to a wealthy family. She worried internally, fearing she had offended them. Why do you lack self-respect? Princess Gaoyang exclaimed in anger. The widow dared not respond, her head lowered even further. Speak. Why do you demean yourself so? Princess Gaoyang shouted again. The widow still did not dare to raise her head and led them to the kitchen. There, a single clay pot and a bowl were all that remained. The widow approached a corner, lifted the clay jar, opened the lid, and set it aside. Princess Gaoyang stepped closer to inspect. Inside lay a few miserable grains of rice. You. Princess Gaoyang opened her mouth, but could not find her voice. Feeling a lump in her throat, the man returned, cradling a woven basket, which he placed in the widow's arms. He turned to Cheng Chumo. You are both noble people. I know my actions were wrong. Please do not punish her. I shall not dare again, he said, lowering his head. He could see that they were not to be trifled with. Why are you not married? Princess Gaoyang asked. The widow smiled bitterly. There are countless young maidens who would marry a widow without a dowry. Cheng Chumo took Princess Gaoyang away. Why don't you help them? You have such power, she glared at him. Feeling he was cold-hearted. Do you not think they are better off as they are? Do you believe that giving her a life of luxury would bring her happiness? Cheng Chumo replied. Princess Gaoyang was taken aback. Indeed, would the widow truly be happy with wealth? What would others think if they learned of her riches? They would seek to marry her. Marry her? For her money? What would happen when the money runs out? He continued. Rather than change, it is better to maintain the status quo. Everyone has their way of life. What one fights for step by step is the best. Sudden wealth could be a disastrous windfall. A little assistance would be nice, Princess Gaoyang murmured. Cheng Chumo smiled, but said nothing. If you help me research an insulator, I will fulfill your wish. Fufeng County shall know no hunger, Cheng Chumo stated. Princess Gaoyang nodded earnestly, though she did not fully grasp what an insulator was. Upon returning to the villa, Princess Gaoyang ceased her complaints and followed Cheng Chumo in research daily. When fatigued, she would take him for walks. They arrived at a farmhouse where the family was faring well. 3 sons were in the yard slaughtering pigs and warmly welcomed Cheng Chumo and Princess Gaoyang. The pork was delicious and nothing was wasted. Even the pig skin was boiled down and placed in a basin. Perhaps it had been overcooked. As the skin was tougher than gelatin, the 3 sons expressed regret. Princess Gaoyang, with wide eyes, blinked and poured all the remaining pig skin into the pot to begin boiling. Time passed, and after some success, if unsatisfied, she continued to boil it. Cheng Chumo watched in amazement as the pig skin, through repeated boiling, began to resemble rubber. He scooped up Princess Gaoyang. What a talent! Cheng Chumo exclaimed, filled with excitement. Princess Gaoyang beamed with pride. After leaving a few coins, she returned to the villa to commence production. A month later, the insulator was successfully created. Cheng Chumo laughed heartily. Lu Luchi approached him. The heads of the 7 great families wish to see you. Cheng Chumo's expression darkened instantly. Those bastards have finally arrived. At the government office, the heads of the 7 families wore grim expressions, and Cheng Chumo's was even darker. What do you propose we do about this? If you do not pay, I will end you. Cheng Chumo spoke coldly. The head of the Wang family stood. We merely borrowed the money. We did not anticipate how costly the cannon would be. He explained. The other 6 nodded. There was no need to hide this from Cheng Chumo, as Li Shimin was already aware. They required the cannon for protection. Are you telling me you would steal from me? I do not care. You must return that money, Cheng Chumo insisted. He could not care less about what they were doing. Cannons were insignificant. Missiles were the future. A sense of urgency filled him. Once they had their cannon, they would no longer fear him. Clearly, he needed to expedite his research. The 7 men were at a loss. They truly had no funds. The head of the Li family spoke up. We have no money, but we can offer you mineral resources. Cheng Chumo's face darkened. Without money, what good were minerals? What endeavor does not require money? The head of the Chui family then stood. There is a place with wealth. I wonder if you dare to pursue it? Cheng Chumo looked at him as if he were a fool. You steal my money and then expect me to go after it myself? Cheng Chumo replied. Encountering such shamelessness for the first time, the heads of the families felt powerless. They genuinely could not produce that much money. We owe you a personal favor. We shall return the money in a year, the head of the Wang family stated, with the others nodding in agreement. The favor from the families would surely be honored. Without question, Cheng Chumo pondered for a moment. Indeed, a favor from the families could be useful. Very well, tell me where to acquire the funds, he instructed. Petty squabbles would not resolve the issue. To sustain research, a significant endeavor was necessary. The Buddhist sect, the 7 heads, echoed in unison. Cheng Chumo wasted no time and left the government office. The 7 exchanged glances. Ha ha ha, Cheng Chumo, you dare to confront the Buddhist sect? This shall be entertaining. The head of the Wang family muttered to himself, while the others shared knowing smiles. Even in their poverty, they did not lack for Cheng Chumo's money. They would find a way to repay him. Their strategy to pit Cheng Chumo against the Buddhist sect would yield dividends. Many harbored disdain for the Buddhist sect. During the Tang dynasty, sects merely served to deceive the populace, serving no other purpose. The audacity of the Buddhist sect to instigate matters was intolerable. They secretly amassed wealth and power, and during Empress Chongsuan's time in Chang'an, the Buddhist sect was particularly rampant, with countless lay disciples. Their strength had become a threat to the noble families, which was the reason for the noble families' confrontation with the Buddhist sect. The golden statues appeared splendid on the outside, yet were decayed within, a facade of beauty hiding a core of filth. Bodhi is inherently devoid of trees, and the bright mirror is likewise not a platform. Fundamentally, there is nothing at all, where then could dust settle. The teachings of Buddhism stand in stark contrast to this sentiment. Princess Danyang's lover is a monk, as is the lover of Princess Gaoyang. The truth often outweighs mere rhetoric. Cheng Chumo departed from the Grand Hall, contemplating the need to understand the Buddhist community of the Tang dynasty before taking any action. His contemporary knowledge of Buddhism was somewhat superficial, characterized by portly figures and luxurious carriages. The efficacy of the Buddha seems to hinge upon the digits in one's bank account, with a greater number signifying greater spiritual potency. Upon returning to a separate courtyard, he found it commandeered by Princess Gaoyang, who intended to conduct scientific research there. Numerous women, whose origins were unknown to Cheng, were engaged in these scholarly pursuits alongside her. As he entered, he was met with an abundance of copper wires and large cauldrons, with gold and silver in overwhelming quantities, all for experimental use. Cheng Chumo's lips twitched in response to the extravagance. Such was the nature of research, where waste was an unavoidable reality. I shall leave this in your capable hands. I will be absent for a time, but I will send someone to attend your grand wedding, he stated. Princess Gaoyang did not lift her gaze. Understood. Do as you please. I need a steward. And where can I procure the materials you mentioned? She replied impatiently. Cheng Chumo felt helpless. Funds were lacking. He missed Xia Zhu, who had managed these affairs effortlessly. It was time to summon them back. Understood, he affirmed, departing the courtyard to locate Lulu, handing one of them a map. Seek out individuals. Instructing them to return and take charge of Fufeng County, he directed. Lulu acknowledged. The generator required testing. Such matters would be left to time. Cheng Chumo shaved his head, preparing to blend into the Buddhist community. In the 13th year of the Jingguan era, during autumn, an unusual year unfolded. The Tang monk was born this year, destined to embark on a journey for sacred scriptures almost immediately after birth. A curious circumstance indeed. Rumors swirled of Li Shimin wandering through the netherworld, borrowing 20 more years of life. Given his profound affliction, why had he lived so long? Was the figure reclining on the dragon couch truly Li Shimin? The 13th year of Jingguan resembled the modern year of 2012, shrouded in mystery and uncertainty. As if everything were beginning anew, Cheng Chumo arrived at the Daoan temple, seamlessly assuming the role of a monk. It was perplexing why temples seemed to be in need of personnel, particularly young and vigorous ones like him. Chapter 182. Infiltrating the temple for the first time. Cheng Chumo entered the temple as a monk. The description of the temple as a grand courtyard was apartment. Why did the Buddhist community erect such towering walls? Was it to safeguard possessions, or did it harbor secrets yet undisclosed? One might mistake it for a prison, the walls towering at 5 meters. Senior brother, what should I do? Cheng inquired. His senior brother appraised him, startled by his imposing stature. I shall assign you a light task. Sweep the courtyard, he replied. Cheng accepted, taking up the broom and beginning his work. Throughout the morning, he observed a myriad of individuals arriving at the temple, none empty-handed. As the noon hour approached, the foot traffic diminished. A wealthy young lady entered, accompanied by 2 maids. Upon meeting the abbot, she produced a sum of paper currency. This is the currency of Fufeng County. It seems her status is not trivial, for only the affluent or noble can utilize such notes. My lady has been married for 6 months without conceiving. Today she seeks blessings for fertility, promising a substantial reward if successful, one maid explained. The abbot was taken aback. The implications of failure were dire, as the temple held a strict policy against aiding those of power and influence in such matters. Should complications arise, the fallout would be catastrophic. As the abbot prepared to decline, the maid presented another stack of currency into his hands, causing his heart to race. This amount could be exchanged for a fortune in copper coins. This money must be secured. Who could assist her in conceiving? The abbot was in a quandary. He could not rely on the temple's elders, who were all rather portly. Such figures would not appeal to the lady. Should anything go awry, it would be best to use a newcomer, someone expendable, to deflect any blame from the temple. Just as he was deliberating, Cheng Chumo ambled over with his broom. The abbot's expression brightened. The young man's physique would surely please the lady. Madam, do you see that youth? He gestured toward Cheng. The lady turned to look at him, her cheeks flushing, a hallmark of modesty in ancient times. The abbot beamed with delight. You there, young monk, come here, he called. Cheng Chumo looked at the abbot, pointing at his own face. Did you call for me? He asked. The abbot nodded, and Cheng approached, clasping his hands together in greeting. The abbot nodded approvingly. This young monk exhibited a measure of decorum. Take this lady to the back mountain. There stands a statue of Guanyin that bestows children. Off you go, he instructed. Cheng paused, scratching his head. Abbot, it's my first day here. I don't know where the back mountain is, he admitted sheepishly. The abbot pointed toward the dense woods behind him. Cheng acknowledged and led the lady toward the back mountain. The maids attempted to follow, but the abbot intervened. No. It is imperative that she not be disturbed during her prayer for fertility. You shall remain in the front hall to partake in some vegetarian offerings. He would not allow them to accompany her. Their presence would only hinder the lady's efforts. Upon reaching the back mountain, Cheng found a door before him, where 2 monks were napping. They were startled awake by his presence. Upon realizing Cheng was accompanied by a woman, they quickly understood and poured 2 cups of tea, smiling as they offered it to him and the lady. Cheng was puzzled, looking at the monks. This is calming tea. Only after consuming it can one hope for successful conception, the monk explained. Cheng Chumo scoffed internally. He had no intention of drinking such concoctions. The lady, using her sleeve to shield her face, drained her cup. As they traversed beyond the mountain gate, after 100 meters, Cheng discreetly spat out the tea. The lady stared at him in disbelief, perplexed as to why he had rejected the calming tea. Cheng then produced a small pill and swallowed it. They arrived at a cave, where a large circular opening loomed above, and beneath it lay a grand bed. At this moment, the realization dawned upon Cheng. This was no quest for blessings, but rather a scheme for procreation. The lady gazed at the bed, her understanding dawning. The monks had devised a clever ruse. Should they engage in some activities, they would be held captive by the monks. and the lady would undoubtedly fear revealing the truth to others. Suddenly, the lady's complexion flushed, her eyes fixed on Chung with a glimmer of longing. Chung felt a warmth spread through his body, recalling that the aphrodisiac was inescapable. The pill left by Sun Simiao had proven ineffective. Fortunately, he had expelled a significant portion of it. Though not a lecherous man, Chung was still male. In such a moment, would he not seize the opportunity? He scooped the lady up and tossed her onto the bed, eliciting a soft gasp from her. What a transgression, he muttered, delivering a swift blow to render her unconscious. He was unaware of the woman's identity and decided it was best not to harm anyone. After a brief moment of hesitation, he moved aside and sat on the cold stone surface, beginning to chant the great compassion mantra within the grand hall. Are you seeking death? How dare you touch my father's concubine and still ask for children? Do you think I am ignorant of your schemes? Hand her over. And if a single hair is harmed on her, this entire group of bald-headed monks will face dire consequences. The voice belonged to Cui Wencheng, the head of the Cui family, who had just arrived in Chang'an only to discover that his concubine had gone missing. Upon inquiry, he learned that she had gone to pay homage at a temple, claiming to beseech for children. This was understandable, without any notable background. Her life would indeed be miserable if she could not bear offspring. The head of the Cui family had long lost the ability to conceive, making it impossible for him to father children. Thus, the woman had no choice but to seek divine intervention. The abbot, noticing the sweat beading on his forehead, hurriedly made his way to the back mountain, secretly chiding himself for not recognizing the woman's significant status sooner. He had not anticipated she belonged to the Cui family. Feeling uneasy, Cui Wencheng followed the abbot to the mountain's rear. At the cave's entrance, the abbot halted, knowing there were certain things one should not witness, for they could lead to fatal consequences. The Cui family was not an entity to be trifled with. Cui Wencheng trembled with rage, uncertain whether to venture inside. What would he say if he saw something? Gritting his teeth, he decided to enter. He rushed into the cave and found the woman lying on a bed. While a monk sat nearby, Cui Wencheng kicked the monk forcefully in the back. Cheng Chumo, still dazed, was jolted awake and filled with fury, rose to glare at Cui Wencheng. You truly have some nerve, he exclaimed, immediately launching a vicious assault on Cui Wencheng. The latter screamed in agony as the abbot outside heard the commotion, horrified by the brutality. He had already formulated an excuse, intending to place the blame on Cheng Chumo, claiming he was not one of their monks, but rather a wandering monk, a detail no one could dispute since Cheng Chumo had only arrived that day. After the brutal beating, Cui Wencheng stood before Cheng Chumo like a frightened child. Do you believe me when I say it's a misunderstanding? Cui Wencheng pleaded. Cheng Chumo's face darkened. A misunderstanding? You dare to say that? This is far from over. You have the audacity to strike me. Cui Wencheng shivered at his words, managing a smile that was more painful than tears. He glanced at the woman on the bed, then at Cheng Chumo, internally lamenting his fate. Cheng Chumo would not be picky. He would not let this woman slip away. How could he explain this to his father? Would he tell the truth? His father would be enraged, yet helpless. With a bitter expression, Cui Wencheng turned to Cheng Chumo. Brother Cheng, how could you have such tastes? Chapter 183. The Wandering Monk Knows the Mantra. Cheng Chumo scrutinized Cui Wencheng, realizing that he must eliminate any knowledge of his secret at Dawn Temple. If word got out, he would lose everything. Heh, Cui Wencheng, you've uncovered my secret. I can only silence you, Cheng Chumo said with a cold smirk. Cui Wencheng stared blankly at him, terrified at the prospect of being silenced. He turned to flee, but Cheng Chumo swiftly kicked him down, his foot pressing against Cui Wencheng's back, leaving him struggling like a turtle trapped in its shell. I'm your partner. You can't treat me this way. I want to say a word, and we'll cooperate. Cui Wencheng shouted in panic, fearing Cheng Chumo might truly end his life. However, Cheng Chumo had no intention of killing him. He merely sought to intimidate. At that moment, the woman stirred awake, hastily adjusting her clothing and glancing at Cheng Chumo and Cui Wencheng. One lay down, while the other faced away, obscuring their appearances from her view. Noticing her wrinkled clothing and the disturbance of her waist, she began to weep, realizing her dire situation. Cheng Chumo turned his head and removed his foot from Cui Wencheng's back, prompting Cui Wencheng to scramble to his feet. Upon seeing Cui Wencheng, the woman cried even harder, recognizing him as the young master of the Cui family. If the family had found out, her fate would be sealed. Stop crying, Cheng Chumo commanded. She immediately stifled her sobs, intimidated by his fierce demeanor. Cheng Chumo was at a loss for how to proceed and turned to Cui Wencheng. What do you suggest we do? He asked, intending to shift the blame entirely onto Cui Wencheng, asserting that none of this would have occurred had it not been for him. Cui Wencheng looked conflicted. Gritting his teeth, he proposed. What if we just give her to you? Only Cui Wencheng would dare to offer his father's concubine as a gift. He had always opposed his father's taking of concubines, deeming it a waste. Cheng Chumo's interest was piqued. Throughout his journey, he had only received one concubine, and now he was being offered another, one with a child. Then I shall accept, Cheng Chumo replied. The woman nearly fainted at the thought of being handed over so casually. Although her family was not a prestigious lineage, they were still a considerable clan. No, you cannot do this, she cried. The two men ignored her pleas. Cheng Chumo proceeded to instruct Cui Wencheng on a few matters, to which Cui Wencheng nodded in agreement. The family had discussed opposing Cheng Chumo and the Buddhist sect, which he disagreed with. Torn He debated whether to inform Cheng Chumo of this. Ultimately, he decided he must speak up. If Cheng Chumo learned the truth later, he would undoubtedly seek retribution. And Cui Wencheng needed to extricate himself from this predicament. Brother Cheng, you have been deceived by the 7 families. They are genuinely seeking repayment. It would not be difficult for them, given their earnings over the years, Cui Wencheng explained. Cheng Chumo patted Cui Wencheng on the shoulder, understanding the underlying dynamics, yet feeling powerless against the aristocracy. They claimed that the funds were meant for artillery development, a statement made without malice but received with intent, signaling to Cheng Chumo that his leverage was diminishing. Cheng Chumo was no fool. He would not sever ties recklessly. He still held a debt of gratitude to the 7 families and was willing to be used as a pawn, primarily because the Buddhist sect indeed possessed wealth. Today, he had witnessed the throngs of devotees flocking to the temple, showering it with offerings. If this continued day after day, the accumulated wealth would be staggering. It was incomprehensible. If the temple's assets were made public, it would astonish everyone. You have done well. I am aware of the situation. You know what to do when you return. Cheng Chumo instructed. Cui Wencheng nodded and looked at the woman, who bit her lip in silence. Come with me. Seeking children is a good thing. If one attempt fails, we shall try again, Cui Wencheng said with a smile. The woman's status had changed. She was now Cheng Chumo's, and unlike his father's concubine, she would receive better treatment. What if she turned out to be like Xiaozhu? He could not afford to offend her. The woman rose and followed Cui Wencheng outside. Her gait was peculiar, marked by a strange awkwardness. She assumed that Cheng Chumo had already taken advantage of her, lamenting her misfortune and the pain she felt. In her heart, she grieved her fate. Cui Wencheng led the woman outside, producing a stack of banknotes to hand to the abbot. Daqing Temple is quite impressive. It truly can help one conceive, he remarked. Without waiting for the abbot's response, he took the woman and departed. The abbot hurried into the cave. Eager to uncover how Cheng Chumo had managed this feat, Cheng Chumo was rhythmically striking a wooden fish, softly chanting Namo Rina, Dalaya, Namo Aliagiana. The abbot stood in a daze, eyes sparkling with excitement, trembling with emotion. The visiting monk truly could recite scriptures. The Buddhist community had finally produced a master. Such sacred texts were not meant for the ordinary. The abbot clasped his hands together, murmuring the Buddha's name, Amitabha. Cheng Chumo opened his eyes and looked at the abbot. There's no need to serve me tea. A humble monk can manage, Cheng Chumo stated, then closed his eyes again. The abbot smiled. Henceforth, I bestow upon you the Dharma name, Ji Sexy. Cheng Chumo nodded in acknowledgement. The abbot departed, satisfied. Regardless of how the young master of the Cui family managed his desires, the Dan Temple would undoubtedly prosper from the business of seeking offspring. The young master of the Cui family would serve as the best advertisement, and offerings would flow in abundance. Cui Wencheng returned home with a woman. I trust you don't need my guidance? His identity must remain confidential. Following him will be your fortune, he assured her, his tone gentle and demeanor amiable. The woman felt a surge of apprehension. When had Cui Wencheng become so easy to approach? His politeness was puzzling, and she speculated about the man's true identity. Realizing that anyone capable of influencing Cui Wencheng must be extraordinary, the thought of herself being involved with that man made her feel even more aggrieved, tears threatening to spill. You mustn't cry. If you do, it will be disastrous for you, Cui Wencheng warned, not as a threat but a grim reality. No one would come to her aid if she were harmed in the Cui household. She immediately composed herself, gazing at Cui Wencheng with a pitiful expression. Cui Wencheng sighed, finding the situation troublesome. Rest assured, I will assist you. In the future, when you are by that noble's side, be diligent in your duties, understood? And remember to speak well of me when you succeed. The woman was momentarily stunned. Noble? Speak well of Cui Wencheng. The current emperor? Surely not. Can you tell me who he is? She inquired. Her curiosity piqued about the person who could evoke such a reaction from Cui Wencheng. Cui Wencheng glanced around. Deeming it unnecessary to conceal the truth, she would learn eventually. Cheng Chumo, he revealed, and the woman's jaw dropped, as if she could fit an egg into her mouth. Cheng Chumo, the pinnacle of the dukes? The enemy of all dukes? The adversary of every prominent family? The emperor's foe? It cannot be. After a long pause, her face flushed, and she gently nodded. Do not worry, young master, I will, she whispered. Having come to terms with the reality, Cui Wencheng felt helpless. Cheng Chumo was certainly a magnet for attention, and the woman's reaction to his name was quite disconcerting. I will attend to other matters. You should continue your quest for offspring tomorrow, Cui Wencheng instructed. The woman's cheeks flushed, and she nodded shyly. The next day, the woman arrived early at the temple. The abbot escorted her directly to the cave. The vow of chastity is upheld by our temple's esteemed monk. You shall surely fulfill your wishes, he assured her. She nodded lightly, realizing that Jisexi referred to Cheng Chumo, feeling as if she had uncovered a monumental secret. Entering the cave alone, she found Cheng Chumo, who was theatrically reciting scriptures. Are we seeking offspring today? She asked, her cheeks aglow. Cheng Chumo was speechless. They had not sought anything yesterday either. Please take a seat on the bed, he instructed. She complied, sitting on the bed as he took a seat opposite her, striking the wooden fish and chanting softly. The woman gazed at Cheng Chumo, bewildered. Is this how we seek offspring? I thought. Suddenly, her face turned crimson, realizing they had done nothing yesterday. She felt embarrassed. Lowering her head, her cheeks burned with shame. Is anything happening outside? Cheng Chumo inquired, seeking to alleviate the monotony of the chanting. The woman, preoccupied with her thoughts of seeking offspring, did not hear his question. Cheng Chumo paused, looking at her. With the sound of the wooden fish gone, she lifted her gaze to him, puzzled as to why the chanting had ceased. Is there something happening outside? He repeated gently, as she seemed timid. She blinked, contemplating the recent gossip shared by her maid. Being from a notable family, she had access to plenty of news. Yuan Tiangang has returned. I heard the head of the family say he discovered a potent herb that specializes in detoxifying. But who would it be for? She remarked. Cheng Chumo felt a stir of interest. The Tianshan Snow Lotus, detoxifying? Who else but Li Shimin? He mused, reflecting on Li Shimin's unexpected fortune in locating the rare flower. Did he bring the Snow Lotus back? Cheng Chumo asked. The woman shook her head. The head of the family said that the area surrounding the Snow Lotus is rife with bandits and many rebels. He also mentioned that obtaining the Snow Lotus would not be easy, as too many people wish for that man to perish, she replied. She continued. There are rumors that the emperor roams the underworld at night, and the judge even granted him an additional 20 years of life. Her curiosity was evident as she pondered the nature of the underworld. Indeed, the emperor was impressive to even dream of such a place. In the imperial palace, Li Shimin stood in the garden, accompanied solely by Yuan Tiangang. I have already instructed the release of the news regarding my dream of the underworld and the gift of 20 years more, he declared, his expression grim. The Tianshan Snow Lotus could indeed cleanse the poison from his body, but too many wished to see him dead. Not only Yuan Tiangang sought the Snow Lotus. Both the righteous and the wicked were preparing to vie for it. Among them were remnants of Li Jianqing's faction and the brigands from the previous dynasty, as well as other unsavory characters. The remnants of Li Jianqing's faction regarded Li Shimin as their mortal enemy, while the brigands bore a grudge against the court due to Li Yuan's execution of Shan Xiongxin. The court's desire to see Li Shimin attain the Tianshan Snow Lotus was exceedingly rare. This was not mere darkness in Li Shimin's heart. Such was human nature. The 7 great families would also discreetly obstruct him. Yuan Tiangang remained silent, recognizing the complexity of the situation. His relentless pursuit of the Tianshan Snow Lotus was to counteract the poison afflicting Li Shimin. As the one who bound the spell, must also be the one to unbind it. As a practitioner of the Tao, Yuan Tiangang was obliged to repay his debts. Failing to do so would lead to Li Shimin suppressing the Taoist sect, potentially leading to its extinction. For the sect to survive, it must align with imperial power. Standing against the court held no future. Li Shimin turned to Yuan Tiangang. Taoist, I bear an inescapable responsibility towards the Taoist sect today. Why do you remain silent? He asked, a smile on his face, his eyes narrowing slightly. Yuan Tiangang forced a smile, feeling the disparity in treatment. Li Shimin had sent Sun Simiao off with great courtesy, while he spoke to Yuan Tiangang without pretense. To obtain the Tianshan Snow Lotus, you require someone of your utmost trust, and who is also capable, Yuan Tiangang suggested. Li Shimin smiled. The choice is already made. I have no one I trust more than Cheng Chumo, for he is the one who would never wish for my demise. Li Shimin had once declared, even in death, I shall take you with me. Cheng Chumo would undoubtedly exert every effort to reclaim the Tianshan Snow Lotus. His combat prowess is beyond question. For one does not merely boast of being a divine general. Where is Cheng Chumo? Li Shimin inquired. Yuan Tiangang was unaware. Li Shimin summoned a eunuch for information. Upon learning of the situation, his expression darkened. This fellow had actually gone missing, vanishing without a trace after departing from Fufeng County. A request for an audience from the Chui family officials was made. A eunuch reported, Li Shimin noted. Frowning, Yuan Tiangang turned to leave. Have him come forth. Li Shimin commanded. Upon the arrival of the Chui family official, he immediately lodged a complaint. Your Majesty, please punish Cheng Chumo. He has seized my family's head's concubine at the temple. The official exclaimed with indignation. Li Shimin found it amusing. He thought. By treading upon iron shavings one cannot find a path, yet everything comes effortlessly when pursued. Unable to locate Cheng Chumo, he mused that the latter would inevitably create some stir on his own. The audacity to seize a concubine from a noble family was something Li Shimin had not anticipated. Which temple? He inquired, genuinely curious. He was indifferent to Cheng Chumo's act of seizing a concubine, for such a woman held little value. At Don Temple, replied the Chui family official. Very well, you may return. Is it not merely a concubine? Tell your family head not to be so petty. Li Shimin waved dismissively. The official's face flushed red. Perhaps he should not have come to complain at all. After the official departed, Li Shimin laughed heartily. He changed his attire and set off for Don Temple, intending to summon Yuan Tiangang. Yuan Tiangang's expression soured. He felt that Li Shimin was overstepping. Your Majesty, for the Tang dynasty to undergo a change of reign, it would require a pig to climb a tree, Yuan Tiangang said darkly. Li Shimin was taken aback, then elated. A pig could never ascend a tree. The Tang dynasty shall surely have countless generations of sovereigns. He refrained from angering Yuan Tiangang, recognizing the latter's leverage to restrain his temper. Upon arriving at the temple, he concealed his identity. Is Master Jesse present? Li Shimin asked. The abbot felt a secret pride. He had an eye for talent, and Jesse had become a renowned figure in Chang'an, his reputation preceding him. However, it was unexpected for a man to seek Jesse's counsel for progeny. Only women seek children, men do not, the abbot remarked. Li Shimin nearly choked on his words. He had already investigated Cheng Chumo standing here. To think he was seeking progeny for someone. How very specialized indeed. I merely wish to pay my respects to the master. Li Shimin said, his countenance slightly darkened. The abbot smiled knowingly at him, choosing silence. You think to see Jesse without compensation? What a jest. Jesse is a master who does not easily meet with anyone. Li Shimin felt a simmering anger. The abbot had never encountered someone so ignorant of the ways of the world. Rubbing his fingers together, he brought them to his lips and blew. It was Li Shimin's first encounter with such a situation. He understood. With a scowl, he produced a string of copper coins. The abbot's demeanor shifted instantly. A string of coins? This is hardly enough to appease a beggar. What status does Jesse hold? He is beloved by middle-aged women and young brides alike. You think a mere string of copper coins will suffice? Where are the paper notes? A rustic indeed. Jesse is not available. You may leave. The abbot turned to depart. Li Shimin stood frozen in place, trembling with rage. This was an affront. He cursed Cheng Chumo in his heart, lamenting that he was a source of trouble wherever he went. Glancing at his attendant, he found none. Li Shimin had no choice but to return for more funds. He wished to avoid revealing Cheng Chumo's whereabouts. Upon encountering the official managing the treasury, he ordered, "Prepare money for me." The official complied, producing a bundle of paper notes for Li Shimin. Enraged, he exclaimed, "Preposterous! I do not require these worthless scraps of paper." The treasury official replied helplessly, "Your Majesty. This symbolizes status. Without paper notes, people will think you are unsophisticated." Li Shimin paused, realizing why the abbot had changed his demeanor. It was indeed due to the absence of paper currency. To his surprise, paper notes had become a symbol of status even in Fufeng County. With the paper notes in hand, he returned to the temple, directly tossing the notes at the abbot's face. "I demand to see Jesse," Li Shimin declared. "Very well. Please wait a moment. I shall escort you," the abbot replied, noting the sizable stack of wealth before him. With money comes a certain audacity. He almost wished for Li Shimin to flaunt it again. Chapter 185. Who would not desire Li Shimin's demise? The powerful Li Shimin, overwhelmed by the complexities of human relationships, found himself thwarted. Without money, he could not gain an audience with Cheng Chumo, a sovereign of an era yielded to the intricacies of societal norms. How much more so the common folk? The intricacies of human relations are a vital component of Huaxia civilization. Wherever one may be, a Chinese person can be easily identified. It is customary to present gifts before doing business. Who among foreigners could withstand such tactics? In a century, accomplishing what others take centuries to achieve, one must admit that the common people indeed bear heavy burdens, yet it is worthwhile. Upon encountering Cheng Chumo, Li Shimin found him reclining on a bed, a concubine attending to his legs. Li Shimin stood with arms crossed before him. The concubine, curious, asked, "What business do you have with the master?" "He is not seeking children today." Li Shimin was rendered speechless. He had not anticipated Cheng Chumo enjoying such luxuries as a monk. "Cheng Chumo," Li Shimin addressed him. Cheng Chumo opened his eyes and sat up. "What do you want?" he queried, not bothering to ask how Li Shimin had discovered his whereabouts. If Li Shimin sought him, there was no hiding for Cheng Chumo. "There is a matter I need you to attend to," Li Shimin stated. "I will not go," Cheng Chumo replied bluntly. Li Shimin had nothing favorable to offer. Having previously completed tasks for Li Shimin without a falling out, their relationship had soured. Cheng Chumo now regarded Li Shimin as inconsequential. "Send your ministers. I am too busy," he declared. Li Shimin's face darkened, suppressing his rage. "You have heard of the Tianshan Snow Lotus, have you not? If you can help me retrieve it, I shall consider it a redemption for your past transgressions," Li Shimin proposed. Cheng Chumo shot a sidelong glance at him. "Your poison is of no concern to me. I warned you, and you did not heed my counsel. I, Cheng Chumo, have been more than benevolent towards you." Li Shimin's expression remained unchanged. Over the years, he had come to understand. He never expected anyone to sacrifice themselves for him. Cheng Chumo was one such individual. And during that time, he had proven himself worthy. Li Shimin felt no regret. Some actions are irrevocable, and he had committed no wrongdoing. The fault lay with Cheng Chumo. A ruler must have loyalty from his subjects, and subjects cannot refuse loyalty. Should he harm Cheng Chumo, any resistance would be deemed treachery. Such a mindset would be condemned in modern times, yet in the Tang dynasty, it seemed reasonable. Li Shimin desired the demise of anyone he wished. To live meant loyalty. "Speak, how might we proceed?" he prompted. Cheng Chumo shook his head. Why did Li Shimin not send someone else? Because he had no trust in anyone but Cheng Chumo. Acquiring the Tianshan Snow Lotus was no simple task. To put it bluntly, it was not merely retrieval, but rather an act of seizing. "Should I perish? You shall not find peace either," Li Shimin exclaimed in anger. The obstinate Cheng Chumo incited his frustration, yet he felt powerless. Cheng Chumo was not so easy to eliminate. One wrong move could ripple through the entire situation. Li Shimin was reluctant to take extreme measures, for he still harbored hopes of living many more years. Cheng Chumo rose from his bed and stood opposite Li Shimin. "Do not threaten me with death. I know that should you perish, you would take me with you. But do you truly wish to die? If you dare to intimidate me again, I shall end your life right now, and we shall descend into the underworld together." Cheng Chumo and Li Shimin locked eyes, neither yielding an inch. The concubine stared blankly, having just realized the identity of the visitor. The scene she had witnessed left her astounded. "Is this Cheng Chumo?" How audacious to speak to the emperor in such a manner. After a moment, Li Shimin averted his gaze. I shall find a way to make you go, he declared. With that, Li Shimin departed. Cheng Chumo's heart raced with uncertainty about Li Shimin's intentions. He feared not the emperor's direct confrontation, but rather this inscrutable demeanor. Wait, Cheng Chumo called out. While an open confrontation is easily dodged, a hidden attack is far more perilous. It is better to clarify matters. Li Shimin laughed. Cheng Chumo was still youthful, and when faced with the cunning nature of Li Shimin, he felt somewhat lacking. The emperor had merely sought to intimidate him. Had there been a better way to compel Cheng Chumo, he would not have sought this meeting. Have you agreed? Li Shimin asked, his face beaming with a smile, which only served to infuriate Cheng Chumo. Is there no one left in the Great Tang? Why must it be me? Cheng Chumo inquired, genuinely curious as to why the emperor had chosen him amidst the plethora of talents in the dynasty. Because you do not wish for me to die prematurely. Li Shimin replied, revealing no hint of concealment, nor was there any need to do so with Cheng Chumo. Cheng Chumo understood. He realized that, at some point, he and Li Shimin had become intertwined. As long as Li Shimin lived, Cheng Chumo would not find peace, and should Li Shimin perish, Cheng Chumo would surely follow. This was a certainty he did not doubt. Regardless of the means Li Shimin employed, his demise was inevitable. The simplest method was to threaten Cheng Chumo through his family, for that was his Achilles heel. Although Cheng Chumo's soul was not that of Cheng Yaojin's son, he bore the blood of Cheng Yaojin within him. Even if he did not consider Cheng Yaojin, his very being would instinctively protect the legacy of his lineage. That is a compelling reason. I have a condition. Cheng Chumo stated. Speak, Li Shimin replied, his excitement palpable, as he yearned to live another 100 years. Cheng Chumo contemplated what benefits he might seek. Extorting money was out of the question. The emperor's wealth belonged to the state. The 7 great families owe me money. If you help me reclaim it, I shall go after the Tianshan Snow Lotus, Cheng Chumo declared. Li Shimin was rendered speechless. Cheng Chumo was truly audacious, even suggesting he would pursue it. I must remind you, acquiring the Snow Lotus is no simple task. You must eliminate all competitors and guard against treachery, Li Shimin cautioned. Cheng Chumo appeared unconcerned. He could afford to be careless. Li Shimin, however, could not. Obtaining the Snow Lotus required meticulous planning. I will assist you in reclaiming your funds. This task is not insurmountable. Await my arrangements, and for the time being, do not act. I shall create an opportunity for you, Li Shimin assured him. Cheng Chumo nodded, believing that acquiring the Snow Lotus would be straightforward. He underestimated the challenges posed by the world. Li Shimin produced a token from his waist and tossed it to Cheng Chumo. With this, you shall pass unimpeded on your journey, Li Shimin said before departing. Cheng Chumo's expression turned grave. For Li Shimin to seek his assistance indicated that matters were becoming complicated. He turned to the concubine. You must go to Fufeng County to find Princess Gaoyang and have her send someone to inquire about the Tianshan Snow Lotus. Cheng Chumo instructed. The concubine hesitated. But she stammered. She had heard of Fufeng County, but had never been there. Growing up, she rarely stepped beyond her family's threshold. Cheng Chumo was perplexed. I cannot find it. The concubine blushed and added. Cheng Chumo fell silent. Have Cui Wenqing investigate. I want to know everything about the Tianshan Snow Lotus within a month. He commanded. The concubine nodded. She could indeed locate Cui Wenqing. Yet she hesitated, returning to the Cui family? What if the head of the Cui family tries to harm me? She gazed at Cheng Chumo with a pitiful expression. Cheng Chumo paid her no mind and proceeded to the front hall to converse with the abbot, not forgetting his goal of acquiring wealth. The concubine could only return to the Cui family. The head of the Cui family did not see her, having left Chang'an, seemingly avoiding her entirely, as if she were non-existent. It was understandable. At this time, no one wanted to offend Cheng Chumo over a woman, especially considering the substantial debts owed to him. Openly confronting the Cui family would bring no benefit, only shame. Chapter 186, Procurement and Enlightenment at the Temple. Cheng Chumo clasped his hands in prayer before the abbot. The abbot's expression remained unperturbed, yet a smile broke through. What brings you, my junior brother? He inquired, gesturing towards a nearby meditation cushion. Cheng Chumo settled down. Abbot, I believe with your intellect, you should be the leader of the Buddhist sect, yet you are overshadowed by the great Qing temple. I find this highly unsatisfactory. Cheng Chumo expressed with indignation. The abbot's left eyelid twitched. He too aspired to be the leader of the sect, but such aspirations were not solely his to dictate. They required mastery of Buddhist teachings and a comparison of the number of disciples across temples. The Great Qing Temple was recognized as the foremost temple in Chang'an, while the Great In Temple was merely a minor establishment, hardly worthy of comparison. Although the prospect of leading the sect seemed bleak, the abbot found Cheng Chumo's words pleasing, which only increased his satisfaction with him. Cheng Chumo seemed capable of generating profit and recognized the abbot's authority, making the abbot feel he had found an ally. Do not speak so recklessly, my junior brother, the abbot admonished with a benevolent smile. In half a month, there will be a grand Buddhist assembly. Accompany me, and it will be good for you to see the world. The abbot added. Cheng Chumo readily agreed. His purpose for being here was to procure funds. To achieve financial gain, he needed to enter the core of the temple, as the Great In Temple possessed some wealth, yet it could not satisfy Cheng Chumo's ambitions. Abbot, we must earn money, more money. The temple's current income is far too meager, Cheng Chumo remarked. The abbot nodded in agreement. acknowledging that financial resources were essential for conducting affairs and that achieving prominence in the Buddhist community required significant investment, involving many supporters. My brother is not particularly skilled at generating income. I wonder if you have any good ideas? The abbot inquired with a smile. From a distance, that smile truly resembled that of a venerable monk. Ching Chumo smiled knowingly. It is simple. We shall sell weapons. To be candid, I have connections in Fufeng County. I know a maidservant of Cheng Chumo, and I have assisted her in seeking favors. Cheng Chumo began to spin a tale. The abbot's eyes brightened increasingly. A minister's household typically employed officials of grade 7. Cheng Chumo's maidservant must be at least of grade 3. Are those connections reliable? The abbot asked. Cheng Chumo said nothing. Wearing a smug expression, the abbot understood instantly. Excellent. If you can acquire goods from Fufeng County and then consecrate them in the name of the temple, the common folk will surely clamor to purchase them, the abbot concluded. Cheng Chumo shook his head. He would not exploit the common people. Instead, he planned to target the wealthy elite, for their funds were merely squandered. Brother, what do you believe is the most lucrative item? Cheng Chumo inquired. The abbot remained silent, leading Cheng Chumo to his chamber where he retrieved an irregular glass object to show him. This item is immensely valuable. It is said that there are numerous merchants in Fufeng County, and if one could procure this item, coupled with our consecration, the price would soar. The abbot exclaimed with palpable excitement. The thought of selling the consecrated glass filled him with elation. He had no desire to deceive the common folk, as there was little profit in it. A few grains of rice from one household, some flour from another. He deemed such trifles beneath him. Cheng Chumo stared blankly at the crudely crafted glass. Could this truly be a treasure? The more he pondered, the more exhilarated he became. This was a path to wealth. Cheng Chumo could easily produce this item. Extracting it from an ironworks would be a simple task. However, Fufeng County was quite distant, so he considered the nearby fief of Li Lizzie. The local ironworks had long been idle, making it an ideal place for glass production. Brother, I have ample connections for this venture. Can you truly sell it? What if it doesn't sell? Cheng Chumo inquired. Who would be foolish enough to buy such a thing? The abbot's expression turned serious. Do you doubt my capabilities, brother? This is a mere small affair. Whatever quantity I procure, I will sell. I will accompany you to make the purchase, he asserted. Yet, the abbot harbored reservations, given that he had only recently met Cheng Chumo. What if Cheng Chumo absconded with the funds? Cheng Chumo nodded in agreement, and the two set off without delay. They changed their attire and departed the temple, heading straight for Fufeng County. 3 days later, they arrived at the outskirts of Fufeng County. In a separate courtyard, Cheng Chumo introduced the abbot to Princess Gaoyang. Upon entering the courtyard, they were met with an overwhelming stench of blood, and the anguished cries of pigs echoed throughout. It was not the wail of a single pig. A steady stream of them were being slaughtered, with only the hides deemed useful. The remains were either sold or distributed to the populace, a notion conceived by Gaoyang. Carts laden with cow and sheep hides continued to arrive at the courtyard, where a group of tanners busily cleaned the skins in a fetid pool, a fitting origin for the foul-smelling tanners. The abbot pinched his nose. Brother, this place is hardly civilized, he remarked. Cheng Chumo remained silent, contemplating the abbot's statement. They were led to a separate courtyard where only one person resided, Princess Gaoyang. Upon seeing Cheng Chumo, she pouted. So you do remember to come back? She said, her tone petulant. The abbot felt a surge of delight, recognizing that their relationship was decidedly unique. This venture would surely succeed. Princess Gaoyang, clad in a short, flowing dress and an apron, resembled a little maid. Cheng Chumo exchanged a knowing glance with her. I've recently returned home, he said. Without waiting for her response, he continued, what are you doing here if not attending to me? Princess Gaoyang paused, momentarily taken aback. Attend to you? Oh, I see. She quickly comprehended, realizing Cheng Chumo wished for her to conceal her identity. I don't know where the head of the household has gone. I just came to see what's happening, she explained. Cheng Chumo secretly admired her cleverness, fearing she might inadvertently reveal her true identity. Princess Gaoyang tossed aside her apron and wiped her hands, inviting him in for tea. She linked her arm with Cheng Chumo's as they entered the room. The abbot was further convinced of their close bond, as they showed no regard for decorum. Inside, Princess Gaoyang poured tea for Cheng Chumo. Neglecting the abbot entirely, his status hardly warranted such attention. Cheng Chumo, therefore, had to pour tea for the abbot himself, who did not mind, recognizing that Cheng Chumo's servant naturally held a higher position. Brother, let us discuss serious matters, the abbot said, lifting his teacup. Cheng Chumo nodded and turned his gaze toward Princess Gaoyang. We wish to purchase some glass through your connections. Can you assist us? He asked, casting a furtive glance. Anxious that she might refuse, Princess Gaoyang pouted. No way. Why should I help you? She retorted. Cheng Chumo's face darkened. This girl seemed intent on creating unnecessary complications. You must assist us, he insisted, using his gaze to pressure her. Princess Gaoyang remained unfazed. She was no longer intimidated by Cheng Chumo, having endured far worse. She was not about to succumb to his eyes. Absolutely not. You dare to threaten me? I am of noble birth, she declared playfully. Cheng Chumo, infuriated, stood up, tempted to give her a good scolding. The abbot chuckled softly, observing the couple's playful bickering. Brother, remain calm. You are at fault here. One should not act so when seeking a favor. Humph. Am I the one begging? Brother, you should not involve yourself in this matter, Cheng Chumo retorted, bowing silently. Just wait, little Gaoyang. The abbot smiled gently and produced a folded yellow paper. This is a safety talisman. As a humble monk arriving in a prestigious place without gifts, I present this to you, he said to Princess Gaoyang. She rose to accept it, leaving Cheng Chumo puzzled. Why had she stood to receive the talisman after having been so dismissive moments ago? The abbot rose, clasped his hands in prayer, and chanted a brief mantra before departing the room. As he left, he cast Cheng Chumo a meaningful glance, signaling him to smooth things over. Once the abbot had exited, Cheng Chumo seized Princess Gaoyang's face. Are you looking for a beating? Umph, is this how you plead for assistance? Release me. If you don't, I'll expose your identity, she teased, playfully batting her eyelashes. Cheng Chumo's expression darkened, feeling powerless. After all, there were no alternatives in Fufeng County at present. He released her face and sat in silence. Princess Gaoyang circled around him. Which temple are you from? She asked, reaching out to touch his bald head, clearly amused. Cheng Chumo shook his head. While you're indulging in idle chatter, I need to earn some money. Soon, you will claim you can sell glass, he replied. Princess Gaoyang immediately grew wary. She was not wealthy. I don't have any glass, she insisted. Cheng Chumo chose to ignore her. Just do as I say, he said, rising to open the door. Princess Gaoyang stuck out her tongue in response. The abbot re-entered the room. I agree to provide glass at market price, she announced. One must commend Princess Gaoyang for her adeptness in handling matters. The abbot silently admired Cheng Chumo, recognizing his talent for negotiation, as he had swiftly resolved the issue. Amitba. The abbot chanted, joining his hands in prayer. With the matter settled, Cheng Chumo and the abbot departed. As they passed through a deserted village, Cheng Chumo observed its emptiness. It was evident that old Mo had been cautious. After Cheng Chumo's disappearance, he had promptly relocated, albeit perhaps excessively so. Better safe than sorry, Cheng Chumo thought. Abbot, you may return, I shall visit an old friend. The abbot chuckled and took his leave, intending to promote the consecrated glass. Cheng Chumo entered the village and arrived at old Mo's home. It was desolate, containing only a single table. Upon inspecting it, Cheng Chumo discovered a map concealed beneath the surface. A smile crept across his face. It was characteristic of old Mo to leave no trace behind, and indeed, the table held secrets. This is to enable Cheng Chumo to locate Lao Mo. Cheng Chumo opened the map and crumpled it. Lao Mo would not place the map in such an obvious location. He glanced towards the corner of the table, where the words Mountain Stronghold were inscribed. Only 3 individuals understood these 2 characters, Cheng Chumo, Lao Mo, and the first generation of special forces. Cheng Chumo rose and proceeded toward the stronghold. A day later, the stronghold came into view. It appeared unremarkable, with a group of children sitting quietly at the entrance. Li Huan, holding a book, was earnestly teaching. Have you all understood this, master? As Li Huan was about to inquire of the children, she suddenly spotted Cheng Chumo and quickly stood up, her face alight with joy. Master, you have returned, she said. Cheng Chumo smiled. Li Huan indeed looked the part of a teacher. As a noblewoman, she was more than capable of educating the children. Li Huan led Cheng Chumo into the stronghold, where a large windmill stood prominently in the center. Lao Mo was engaged in some sort of creation. Those who had spent a considerable time with Cheng Chumo had developed a penchant for research. Master, Lao Mo exclaimed upon seeing Cheng Chumo, visibly delighted. The two shared a mentor-student bond that transcended friendship. Without Lao Mo, Li Lizzie would have already been with Zhang Sun Chong. While now Zhang Sun Chong could only gaze longingly at her from afar. Meeting was a rare occurrence. Li Lizzie had never returned to the Zhang Sun family, nor had they sought her out, both parties fully aware of the unspoken truth. Let us prepare some wine and dishes. Let us drink, Cheng Chumo suggested. Li Huan hurried to make arrangements. Cheng Chumo thoroughly enjoyed the meal. Master, have you heard of the Tianshan snow lotus? I would like to acquire a leaf. Lao Mo said. Li Huan lowered her head. Lao Mo desired the snow lotus because of her penchant for poison, often wandering by the river, where one inevitably gets wet. She had long been poisoned, though not severely. Cheng Chumo did not inquire about Lao Mo's intentions for the snow lotus. Very well, I need your cooperation. I will attract everyone's attention, and at that moment, you will procure the Tianshan snow lotus. I will summon the Fufeng Jinbei army, and the special forces will rendezvous with you en route, Cheng Chumo stated. Lao Mo was quietly moved. The absence of questions about the purpose was characteristic of his master. Without further ado, he raised his cup in salute. After drinking, Cheng Chumo declared, I need 100 people to go to Li Lizzie's fief. You shall arrange for them to proceed directly. With that, he took his leave. The process of crafting glass was a secret, and it required the most trustworthy individuals. Cheng Chumo arrived at Li Lizzie's territory, feeling conflicted. Shaking his head to dispel the thoughts, he resolved to take things one step at a time. Upon entering the fief, he found the same faces, except for Wu Shan. Upon seeing Cheng Chumo, everyone bowed in respect. Cheng Chumo inquired about the princess's whereabouts before departing. Under the windmill, Li Lizzie appeared pale, staring blankly at her embroidery frame. Ah! She gasped in surprise as Cheng Chumo embraced her from behind, the familiar scent enveloping her. Li Lizzie quickly turned her head to see Cheng Chumo, tears brimming in her eyes. She spun around and wrapped her arms around his neck. Prince consort. They stood in silence, embracing for a long while. Eventually, Li Lizzie released Cheng Chumo, her head bowed in embarrassment, her small feet tapping the ground. Cheng Chumo found it amusing, pondering her sudden change in demeanor. Are you displeased to see me? He teased. Li Lizzie's head dropped even lower, filled with resentment towards Cheng Chumo. After 2 years apart, were they merely to stand and chat? Shouldn't they be doing something more? She stomped her feet in frustration. Cheng Chumo swiftly picked her up. Is this what you want? He asked. Li Lizzie's face turned as red as a ripe apple. Cheng Chumo carried her toward the woods, causing her to blush further. Shall we return to the room? She stammered. Cheng Chumo did not respond. The maidens exchanged glances, speechless, and could only follow at a distance. That night, Li Lizzie and Cheng Chumo strolled together. Prince Consort, where is mother? She inquired. In Gansu, he replied. Li Lizzie refrained from asking further. Some matters were better left unspoken. She gazed into the distance. My brothers have grown up. Next time you leave, remember to take me with you, she said softly. Some people dream of becoming a princess, only to discover how dull and miserable that life can be, especially for someone like Li Lizzie, whose marriage was arranged. How many princesses could marry for love? Cheng Chumo squatted down, and Li Lizzie climbed onto his back. Charge! She joyfully exclaimed. Cheng Chumo ran with abandon, and her laughter rang out like music. They reached the ironworks, where glass was to be produced. You can oversee the process. The workers are from Mo Village, so you can trust them. Li Huan will come to assist you, Cheng Chumo stated. Li Lizzie excitedly pressed her cheek against Cheng Chumo's neck, softly murmuring her agreement. The next day, the villagers from Mo arrived at the fief, each carrying large bundles. Cheng Chumo welcomed them into the territory, and Li Huan smoothly took over the entire fief. Cheng Chumo instructed them on how to produce glass, and they began to experiment. Even if their initial attempts resulted in inferior products, as long as it was glass, it could be exchanged for money. After overseeing this, Cheng Chumo returned to the temple, where his concubine awaited him in the cave. Young master, here is all the information on the Tianshan Snow Lotus, she said, her face bright with delight at his return. During his absence, she felt an emptiness. She stood and gently massaged his shoulders from behind. Cui Wencheng mentioned that the Tianshan Snow Lotus has now become a dangerous item. The princess should refrain from competing for it, she advised softly. Cheng Chumo perused the information. I must go, he declared. Junior brother, have the tasks been completed? The abbot called from the cave entrance. Cheng Chumo lay on the bed, unmoving. Everything is ready. We have as much as we need, as long as we can afford it, he replied with satisfaction. The abbot did not mind Cheng Chumo's demeanor. Strength spoke louder than any attitude. Indeed, my junior brother is a rising star in the Buddhist community. I admire you, the abbot remarked. With that, 2 monks entered, carrying a large chest. Junior brother, take a look. The 2 monks opened the chest, revealing it filled with banknotes. Cheng Chumo sat up, his mouth twitching. He had brought this upon himself. To be honest, he did not even want the money. Brother, in the future, when we sell glass, we must ensure it is genuine gold and silver. I am not fond of these banknotes, he stated. These banknotes can be exchanged for copper coins. The 7 great families have established many exchange points, allowing for easy conversion, which also guarantees the circulation of banknotes. The abbot, rendered speechless, silently cursed the miserly individuals who preached restraint, noting that paper currency was far superior to copper coins, yet there were still those who disdained it. Listening to the junior monk, take this money to purchase the glazed tiles, and whatever remains, hand over to the senior brother, the abbot instructed. Cheng Chumo nodded in agreement. Abbot, my diet must change. I'm befuddled by a vegetarian diet, he remarked. No, in this sacred abode of Buddhism, how could one consume meat? Unless one were to sneak it in here? The abbot replied. Cheng Chumo consented to the idea of sneaking meat. What you choose to eat is for you to determine. I have never tasted meat in my life, the abbot added. Food passes through the body, but the Buddha remains in the heart, Cheng Chumo replied casually. The abbot paused, impressed by the cleverness of the excuse. Junior brother, you are quite talented. Do call upon me when you dine. For I too wish to experience the Buddha's presence in my heart, he said, before departing with 2 monks. The maid giggled softly, finding Cheng Chumo amusing. Go fetch some meat from Cui Wencheng, Cheng Chumo instructed. The maid lifted her skirt and hurried off. Cui Wencheng arrived at the cave with meat, looking somewhat resigned. Brother Cheng, do you truly still consume meat as a monk? Cheng Chumo remained silent. After all, what monk would avoid meat? Deliver this money to the fief of Princess Changle and assist me in bringing back a certain item, Cheng Chumo said. Cui Wencheng, perplexed, did not inquire further and proceeded to the fief. A cart emerged from the fief, shrouded in secrecy, led by Li Huan. Cui Wencheng recognized Li Huan, but was unclear about Cheng Chumo's intentions. Li Huan could be considered an insider for Cheng Chumo, leaving no room for Cui Wencheng's speculation. What is this? Cui Wencheng inquired amiably. Li Huan smiled. Young Master Cui may inquire with the head of the household, she replied, effectively deflecting any questions Cui Wencheng wished to pose. He could only manage a bitter smile, noting how a woman like Li Huan worked for Cheng Chumo. The proximity to her felt chilling. The allure of a femme fatale is not to be underestimated. They departed with the goods and returned to the monastery. The abbot, upon seeing Cui Wencheng escorting the glazed tiles, was filled with elation. Thank you, young Master Cui, he expressed. With no further words exchanged, Cui Wencheng nodded and entered the cave. The task is accomplished, he announced. Cheng Chumo was currently enjoying a leg of lamb, his concubine tearing off pieces of meat to feed him. Chui Wensheng winced at the sight. It felt peculiar to see his father's concubine serving another. Do you wish to acquire wealth? Cheng Chimo asked. The concubine dabbed Cheng Chimo's mouth with a handkerchief. Chui Wensheng's eyes reddened instantly as memories flooded back. In the past, he had earned substantial sums alongside Cheng Chimo, only for his father to pilfer it all. The distinction between the head of the household and the young master was glaring. The young master aspired to forge his own path and accumulate his own wealth, yet his father disapproved, a primary reason for his disdain towards him. Brother Cheng, what grand venture awaits this time? I am in, Chui Wensheng replied without hesitation. Cheng Chimo revealed that the items just transported were glazed tiles. Chui Wensheng was taken aback, realizing he was moving a cart full of glazed tiles. What a fortune that represented. He trembled with excitement. I shall sell them at once, he exclaimed. Cheng Chimo stopped him, explaining that the abbot would sell them more reliably as he could bless them. Cooperate with the abbot. Together we shall deceive the wealthy and share the profits. With you receiving a tenth, Cheng Chimo elaborated, also informing him of the purchase price and potential profit. Chui Wensheng beamed with enthusiasm. Rest assured, elder brother. I have experience in such dealings, he assured. He harbored a disdain for the nobility, having monopolized the tea trade while observing their unscrupulous tactics, ultimately leading to a loss of their monopolistic status. Most infuriatingly, his father had a stake in it, betraying him. In the eyes of the family patriarch, the tea trade was not Chui Wensheng's, but Cheng Chimo's, hence it was ripe for appropriation. Cheng Chimo was pleased. This was one of Chui Wensheng's redeeming qualities. His avarice was endearing. Do not disclose my identity. I have more significant matters at hand, Cheng Chimo instructed. Chui Wensheng nodded. Brother, are you preparing to assist His Majesty in claiming the Tianshan Snow Lotus? I advise you to reconsider. Too many seek the lotus. And even my father is arranging for a contest, Chui Wensheng cautioned. He preferred to earn money alongside Cheng Chimo rather than risk his safety. Cheng Chimo's gaze hardened. He hadn't initially intended to pursue the Tianshan Snow Lotus with full force, but it appeared a change of strategy was necessary. Fetch paper and pen, he commanded. The concubine produced them promptly. Cheng Chimo began to write, addressing one letter to Gansu and another to Hangzhou. You will dispatch these for me, he directed, writing without concealing his actions from Chui Wensheng. The latter watched, alarmed. Summon the special forces back to Chang'an. Recall the Dragon Warriors and the Fufeng Jinbei army back into formation. Each of these units could instill fear in any region, yet Cheng Chimo was calling them all back, indicating his determination to secure the Tianshan Snow Lotus. Do you genuinely wish for His Majesty to continue living? Chui Wensheng asked gravely. Cheng Chimo shook his head. The fate of Li Shimin was of no concern to him. His true objective was to obtain the Tianshan Snow Lotus for Old Mo. Cheng Chimo intended to draw fire away from himself, ultimately allowing Old Mo to seize the lotus. It does not concern you. Carry on with your tasks, he instructed. Chui Wensheng, feeling helpless, acknowledged that Cheng Chimo was resolute in his decisions. Half a month later, a significant event transpired in Chang'an. The 4 eminent monks of Dawn Temple united to bless the glazed tiles. The vibrant, multicolored tiles exuded an ethereal beauty, said to ensure prosperity for one's household. Rumor had it that a master from Dawn Temple who specialized in prayers for children also participated in the blessing. It was said that gazing at the tiles could enhance fertility. The noble ladies of Chang'an became frenzied, desperate to acquire them. However, Dawn Temple proclaimed that they would only be bestowed upon those fated to receive them. What constituted fate? Drawing lots. Those fortunate enough to draw the ticket would receive the tiles. Before the Grand Hall of Dawn Temple, the abbot held a large box containing 1,000 slips of paper, only one of which bore the inscription, Glazed Tile. Let the fates unfold, the abbot declared. The drawing was not merely a lottery, it was a matter of destiny, elevating the occasion's prestige significantly. Hundreds of stewards participated in the drawing, as dignitaries would not engage in such trivialities. One individual drew a winning slip and erupted in jubilant shouts. This person had been arranged by Chui Wensheng. The abbot produced a piece of the vibrant glazed tile and handed it to the steward. Amitabha, destiny has been sealed. This treasure is yours, the abbot declared with a smile before departing. The individuals soon found themselves surrounded by a throng, unable to leave without offering a price. In resignation, he could only declare, the highest bidder shall prevail. Chapter 189. A turn of events. The auction commenced with a minimum bid of 100 coins. Each subsequent bid needing to exceed the previous by no less than 10 coins. To the wealthy nobility, 100 coins were mere trifles. The stewards began to bid fervently, competing not just with their wealth, but also with their social standing. When bidding, the stewards would mention their family name, hoping to deter others from participating. Such hopes were in vain. Chang'an was rife with officials, both from the capital and local jurisdictions. Why are local officials present in the capital? They are there to address grievances promptly, as each province has representatives to manage unexpected incidents. This is precisely why the common people refrain from confronting the authorities. They have ensured that every possible avenue for seeking justice is accounted for. At such moments, local officials show no fear and engage in fierce bidding. One particularly intriguing individual is the steward of the Changsun family. Cheng Chimo and the abbot stand atop a pavilion. Brother, is the Changsun family quite wealthy? Cheng Chimo inquires. The abbot nods, explaining that countless individuals send money to the Changsun family annually. Do not envy, junior brother. It will all be ours in due time. The abbot reassures him, mistakenly believing Cheng Chumo to be envious. Cheng Chumo smiles in acknowledgement. Once the steward of the Changsun family speaks, the bidding abruptly quiets. Many smile at him. 10,000. Just as the Changsun steward believes he can secure the glassware, a voice interrupts. A steward from the Li family of Longxi speaks up. All eyes turn to witness the unfolding drama. The owner of the glassware states, "This piece is a divine gift. I dare not ask for more than 9,999. It is sold." The Li steward's expression darkens, powerless to contest. The Changsun steward, brimming with pride, accepts the glassware, laughing heartily as he departs. In the palace, Li Shimin trembles with rage upon receiving a letter from Tubo. Guanyin had visited Tubo and maintained a close relationship with Cheng Chumo. Furthermore, Princess Nirvana corroborated this. The letter is subtly phrased, yet Li Shimin comprehends the implications. "Bring him to me, kill Cheng Chumo," he commands furiously. Several figures kneel in response. Wu Mingyang, hidden in the shadows, listens intently, her heart racing. Cheng Chumo must not perish. If he does, her sister will not survive either. She rushes out of the Ganlu hall, her mind in turmoil. At that moment, she is truly frightened. Li Ji approaches with a bowl of soup. Wu Mingyang's eyes light up as she pulls him aside, hesitating over whether to ask him to inform Cheng Chumo. Gritting her teeth, she decides that only Li Ji is beyond suspicion at this moment. "Your Majesty intends to kill Cheng Chumo," she states bluntly. Li Ji pauses, quickly regaining his composure. "Why?" he asks. "Your mother is not dead. She has been hidden by Cheng Chumo." Upon learning this, His Majesty was furious and seeks to eliminate him, Wu Mingyang explains. Li Ji stands there, stunned, his composure shattered. His mother is still alive? Was it not said that she died after leaving the palace? He had even attended her funeral, kneeling before her coffin for an extended period. How could this be? It is no wonder he was not allowed to see her. The imperial edict stated that Empress Changsun had fallen ill and did not wish for others to witness her frailty. How could it be so? If Cheng Chumo dies, you will never see your mother again, Wu Mingyang adds. With a crash, the soup bowl shatters on the ground. Li Ji, with reddened eyes, gazes at Wu Mingyang. A resolute decision forming within him. He cannot allow Cheng Chumo to die. He must see his mother. Wu Mingyang secretly rejoices, understanding Li Ji's complex feelings for his mother. In a choice between Li Shimin and Empress Changsun, he would undoubtedly choose the latter. At Dawn Temple, a concubine is grilling meat. "Young master, is the grilled meat so delicious? Shall we not have something lighter?" She pouts, feeling at ease with Cheng Chumo after their acquaintance. Cheng Chumo reclines on the bed, reciting a poem. Brave warriors feast on the flesh of the enemy, laughing as they drink the blood of the Xiongnu. The concubine is speechless. Suddenly, dozens of arrows fly into the cave, and Cheng Chumo instantly awakens, pulling the concubine beneath the bed. After the arrows pass, a group of men in black bursts in. Cheng Chumo swiftly engages them, recognizing their identity upon contact. These are rogues. Li Shimin would not send skilled rogues to Jingzhou Prefecture, where only the weakest reside. After a grueling struggle, Cheng Chumo kicks back one of the rogues and rolls to grab a rifle from the corner. Bang! The shot rings out, and an enemy falls. The rogues are startled. They have never encountered such a weapon before. Regaining their composure, they charge at Cheng Chumo again. He quickly reloads, firing 5 shots in rapid succession, taking down 5 rogues. The remaining 3 begin to evade. Cheng Chumo swiftly reloads again, without wasting words, and aims. In a heartbeat, the last 3 are eliminated. After dispatching 8 rogues, Cheng Chumo does not rush out, knowing that rogues typically operate in groups of 9. One must still be lurking in the shadows. Just as he speculates, one rogue drops down from an opening above, tied with a rope. It comes too suddenly. Cheng Chumo dodges. But the rogue's sword slashes across his chest, crimson blood flowing forth. With a roll, Cheng Chumo retaliates with a shot. Once the area is cleared, he straps the rifle to his back. "Cling to my back, hold tight to my neck," he instructs the concubine. She complies, panicking as she clings to him. Just as she settles, Cheng Chumo's instincts heighten. Something is amiss. He immediately pushes her away. The concubine flips and regains her footing, no longer concealing her true nature. The rogue, with blood-red eyes, recognizes Cheng Guogong. The concubine smiles sweetly, shedding her previous innocence. A dagger is lodged in Cheng Chumo's back. He glares at her, shocked to discover that this woman is a rogue. What a clever disguise. Cheng Chumo's misfortune continues. The concubine was originally tasked with surveilling the head of the Chui family. Who would have thought she would cross paths with Cheng Chumo? The concubine seeks to bear a child because Li Shimin aims to investigate the Buddhist sect. "I have a question. You seldom leave my side. How did you receive orders?" Cheng Chumo inquires. The concubine flashes a sweet smile, returning to her innocent demeanor. "Because they want to kill you. They are all my people," she replies. Cheng Chumo understands now and chuckles. "Thank you for the information," he says. Blood continues to pour from his wound, and the concubine licks her lips, unwilling to confront Cheng Chumo. She lacks the absolute certainty to kill him. The reputation of the divine general is not mere boast. Suddenly, the concubine's expression changes as a monk enters. "Ah, you dare to harm my master? You possess quite the audacity." The intruder is Lao Mo Li Huan has arrived at the fief, How could Lao Mo not be present? Lao Mo infiltrating the temple was against Chung Chumo's wishes, but Lao Mo would not listen. Without special forces alongside, the only one who could protect Chung Chumo in case of an emergency is Lao Mo. The concubine adopts a fighting stance, ready to confront Lao Mo. Lao Mo shakes his head, drawing a curved blade from his waist. It has been many years since I last took a life. I wonder how rusty I have become. Lao Mo mutters to himself as he charges at the concubine. Chapter 190. A rescue for Chung Chumo. The concubine and old Mo were engaged in a strenuous confrontation. This monk